Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. You're listening to the WID podcast. Okay, there we go. Recording. Shit, man, we're back. We're back again with another episode of the WID podcast. We got Miller in the studio.
Welcome.
Man, boy, I tell you, I was like, you know what? Let's stop and let's hit record because there's just so much good shit coming out, man.
Oh, we talked for about 45 minutes before right now.
And then on top of that, when we had dinner, dude, that fucking prime rib.
Oh, dude, that prime rib is so good.
I just gave it up. I couldn't finish it. I got halfway through that bitch.
I'm really surprised. I've gone in there after work and I'm just teething for it. So I'll just go in there and start ripping that thing to shreds. Yeah. And they're like, "You're done already?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess it has been 4 minutes."
Yeah.
My bad.
But last time I went, man, what did you get, the ribeye?
Yeah.
When I was sitting there, boy, he was fucking chomping through that ribeye. Fucking ribeye looked good too.
Yeah. But it was, and it's always like hit or miss with steaks, especially in town for whatever reason. You always feel like you can cook them better at the house, but sometimes you just don't want to put that effort in. Yeah. I can't ever get the fat and the gristle to render very well with my steaks at home.
Okay.
But if I can go to Peasant Village or even the Cactus and I'm just feeling it, I'm like, oh, I'm going to fuck this thing up. Really.
Yeah. Well, I've had it. I had the lamb that was there at Angry Cactus, and that shit was bomb. Yeah. I haven't had the ribeye yet, but that prime rib, though. I love the fatty part of it. I mean, you're right. I don't know how. I guess it was slow cooked and then throw it on the fucking grill.
It looked really good, and it looked like it. How many ounces was it?
I have no idea.
I think if you got the king, it's 16, and then the queen is 12.
Oh shit! Okay.
Right.
Well, yeah, 16 ounce.
When you do get a chance and have it, and if it's in season, the Neil guy.
The Neil guy.
Have you had the Neil guy? Boy,
I think one of my clients gave me some Neil guy though. I have some at the house.
So good.
Yeah.
Like a nice little quarter piece from a leg.
Oh no shit! Mm-hmm. So you have a fuck ton of clients.
Yeah.
So that's
all over the place.
Yeah, it seems that way, man. Because every time I go to a salon, it seems like there's people always coming in and out, Yeah. And I was just, there's just some all facets of fucking life, right?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
It's just crazy because I've gone to lunch with you a few times, right? And it seems like you're always saying hi to somebody. Yeah. And I'm like, fuck, okay. So at that table, you were, I guess, Travis Griffin, the chief of police, the DA.
Yeah.
All those guys were there. And I'm like, all right, this guy just talks to everybody, I guess. But, you actually know these guys.
Yeah. Well, I think to the point that you made earlier was not everybody's so different than what we would assume, or at least what we perceive. So whenever people sit down in the chair and they get real vulnerable and you can just sit there and start talking because they have something that they can get from you, which is just your initial skill, then you can go about it just real regular. And that's why I turn people away from my chairs, because I don't want them to focus on anything except for just genuine conversation.
Okay.
And then you develop those relationships with people, and then you can introduce people through that and so on and so forth. 2 years ago, I was just going out of town on the weekends if I wasn't even cutting for bands. And I would just have 5 or 6 people lined up in Lubbock, Austin, DFW somewhere.
No shit.
Dude.
Those tattoo artists, right, where they go out of town, they tattoo at other shops.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just wind up meeting these people and through the grapevine, or even if you have clients that move somewhere else, they're just like, yo, I'll have homies just come through the house or whatever, and you can cut them up and make some money while you're here. And so I would be cutting 6 to 8 people, and then we just go out to the bar afterwards.
No shit.
Yeah. That's a life right there.
It's pretty nice. It's just chill.
It seems that way, man. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 29. I just turned 29 in September.
And you've been cutting hair for how long?
Next year, I think next year's, this year's 6 years.
Oh, no shit.
6 years professionally. I started cutting in and out of the house whenever I was 14.
Oh shit! Okay,
I was not fucking good at it. There's some of these kids that are in high school, and there were whenever I was in high school and shit like that, and they were actually really good at cutting hair, and I was the white kid that just had the interest in it, and then it took time and kind of evolved into it. But
it's funny how we all morph. We all morphed from that, because that's how I started. That's the first thing I started doing about 14 years old. We were cutting our neighbor's hair. Yeah. My homeboy was just down the street. He'd cut his. I'd cut, he'd cut mine, and
everybody take turns.
Oh yeah, bro. But you're right. It did take a little practice, man, because it was 5 times before all right, man, I got it mint. Your hair's not all fucked up. I remember one time, bro, Anthony was cutting my hair, right? And he's sitting in my ass. And I'm sitting there looking at this mirror, and I see this fucking, like this high spot, right? These little hairs that are a little bit taller than the rest of them. Well, I didn't know he changed the fucking guard.
Oh,
so I picked that bitch up, right? And I'm sitting there, and I run that bitch. Well, he put a 1 on it, and I fucking put a strip down. I was like, oh, fuck. He turned around. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, dude, I didn't even see you change the guard, man. I just saw a high spot. He's like, yeah, dude, I was going to get it, but I was going to get a drink.
Always look before you do that. I can't imagine, dude. No.
Yeah. Look like SPM, bro, like a broke ass SPM.
My last client.
I didn't know kids there.
My last client today was a buddy of mine's son, and he's been wanting to buzz his head since summer because, I mean, I guess the buzz cut with bleach is the look right now for these kids. And
it's not the llama no more? Is that going away?
I guess.
The llama haircut?
I guess.
The llama?
Yeah, where they got the spongy hair up on top. And
the broccoli? Yeah,
the broccoli head.
I guess we're phasing out of that now, but his dad was like, you can buzz your head, but there's a time and place for you and your buddies to be able to buzz your head in the bathroom with beard trimmers. And I was like, yeah, when you're drunken in college and you decide that it's a great idea, but for now we should probably just take this, and be professional about it. But
yeah.
Not right now. Don't be trying to buzz your buddies' heads and stuff like that unless you're just really like eager to fuck somebody up really good.
Hell yeah.
But
hey, you got to fuck up some heads, man, before
you
get
gotta
good.
fuck some people up, dude. It's kind of, it gets a little rough sometimes.
Oh, fuck yeah. I was Amy's fucking mannequin for the first couple years, man.
I remember seeing you come into work and you have like green hair.
Fucking colored hair. That one day she tried to bleach my hair, right? And it came out like an orangey color. Mm-hmm. So I looked like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
As a Mexican Donald Trump, because I fucking combed it over to the side. That shit was hilarious, man. But then, of course, I fucking cut that bitch pretty quick. So I'm not leaving the fucking house looking like that. Ain't no fucking way. Because I worked in the oil field, you know? And by that time I was getting made fun of at work. And I'm like, you fucking cocksuckers, bro. I can't even enjoy myself around you guys.
I'm fucking out here just trying to help my wife achieve her dreams. And you're out here fucking with me right now.
They're like, what the fuck happened to your hair? I remember one time where she cut my hair so fucking bad. Like, she fucked it up. She was inconsolable, bro. I could not even. I was like, it's all right. It's all right. I wear a hat anyways. Just cut it. I could not get her to pick up the clippers.
Damn.
I called Robert. I was like, bro, I need you to come fix my head.
I just buzz it at that point, man.
Yeah, well, she like fucked it up, but it wasn't to the point where it wasn't fixable. I wasn't gonna go complete bald. So I was like, I need you to come over here and fix this. And he showed up and he fucking cut my head.
Fix it.
And the entire time, Amy's crying. I'm so sorry. Like, she was ready to drop out.
Damn.
She's like, I can't do this. And I'm like, dude, you just, as long as it's me. You know what I mean? I was like, you're just fucking practicing.
Yeah.
I fucking knew that. I didn't even gonna fuck it up that bad.
Well, so that's the thing. That's why I think I don't ever really want to teach, is because, like, to my fault, I've had ex-girlfriends or just people in the past that I've, like, they get curious, they pique an interest in wanting to do it, and then I think that I'm just teaching people, like, regularly, like, be easy with it, like, flick your wrist whenever you're cutting, just be mindful about what guard you're using, and you just see people break down so easy over it. I'm just like, dude, I don't think that it's the same reason why I wasn't able to be a tattoo artist, because if I'm running a line on somebody and they just show an ounce of pain, I'm just like, I'm so sorry. Like, just way too sensitive about it. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing this. No, we can't do that right now.
Oh, fuck, man. Yeah, I don't know how tattoo artists can do it, man. I'd be so afraid to fuck somebody's shit up.
But I mean, you definitely become.
They're going to do it in the beginning stages. Like, they're going to fuck people up. It's just part of it.
And I've seen that. Of course, I know that's how it works, because there's a few tattoo artists here in town, but when they started, I was like, do you got your shit done by who? Oh, my God, they fucked your shit up. But you see them now. Oh, yeah. And you're just like, yo, you've really come a long way. Yeah. Like, dude, you're right. He's doing portraits now.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, that's some fucking awesome work. And I was like, dude, I remember when you first started, fuck, I wouldn't let you touch my dog.
It's like everything, man. It's like everything. You got to practice and you got to do it. You have to keep showing up. You have to keep showing up. I mean,
that's what those guys get. I was like, $30 tattoos. Come on down.
Yeah.
I'll hook it up.
Well, shit, now everything's so oversaturated, like, with even tattoo artists, like, you have to run specials if you're not well established at this point. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, it's a dog eat dog world in that world for sure.
Oh yeah, no, I couldn't even imagine, man.
Especially in San Angelo. God damn, there's so many tattoo shops here now.
Yeah, well, everybody decided to buy a tattoo machine during COVID because they were just like, well, I can't go to the shop and go get one, so I guess I'll tattoo my friend. It's the fucking cutting your hair with your friends, but this generation took it to tattooing each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even there's a ton of barbershops that opened up.
Yeah,
There's a fuck ton. And then even then, I mean, I don't understand how half of these guys stay open.
I think I just saw, with all respect, I think I saw Braids and Fades closed on Chadburn
Oh, no shit.
across from Pacianos.
Okay.
I was driving by earlier at the beginning of the day, and it looked like they were taking the sign down and everything like that. So I don't know, man.
That sucks.
It's the exact same thing though. Whenever you have to get yourself out of that famine mentality, especially whenever you're in any industry that's like a service, you don't want to have to deal with like the whole town, because I will gladly I'll refer people to other people if I can't get you in, or if I feel like I can't do that for you. Because one, I want you to have the best experience, and especially meshing personalities. But two, I don't want 130,000 clients. That doesn't sound pleasant.
Ooh,
you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
there's people that just have this desire to be like, I have to have every person. And so they work themselves because they're like, 20 clients a day. I'm going to be here from 8 to 9 p.m. at night, 5 days a week. And if I have one client like that doesn't come in or whatever, it's just like, relax.
Yeah, the whole world didn't, or they go somewhere else. It's like, well, they couldn't get me in, so I'm going to go to this other shop. And then you're pissed off about it because you're like, well, what the fuck, dude? How come you didn't? I was like, dude, I've been waiting for the past however long, to get in with you.
Yeah.
No, I get that. The whole, what do they call that? It's like, I guess the feast and famine part. They just
the famine mentality. Yeah.
Got to get it all. Can't let it go into anyone else. Can't fucking. And of course, like my dad always said, there's enough out here to eat for all of us.
I was gonna say that. I mean, I guess that kind of factors back to like the idea of gluttony, is because, you sit down and you don't think that you're gonna have like your next meal, or you start pigging out on shit because like one piece of cake's not enough because you're like, it's so good.
Yeah.
But you break off that piece of pie whenever you're in the service world, and you're like, oh, that was a really easy couple $100 I made in a day, but if I stay a few more hours, and I can make a couple more $100, and then you don't realize what all you're missing out on in life, because the next thing you know, you're fucking working your ass off doing 60, 70 hours a week in a shop, not doing shit except for that. And
yeah. Well, all that shit starts at home, man. Because I mean, of course, there's not anything like that, but we used to get some of my son's friends that would come over, right, and we'd always make this big chunk of food, right. And you would see them, and I was like, "Hey, man, knock yourself out, get yourself a plate and stuff like that." And they was like, "Is that kind of just weirded out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, just eat." And they'll sit there and they'll eat. But at the same time, while they're eating, they're watching everybody.
Yeah,
But they're trying to finish their plate so they can go get seconds before somebody else does.
Trying to get that last slice of pizza before
everything's out.
Does,
before it's like, oh, there's no more. And I'm sitting there watching, and Amy's, we'll look at these kids. So it's not all of them, but some of them. I was just like, leave them alone. Let them eat. So he said, he's like real quick. The point we even pick up the plate, and they just like shovel that shit.
God damn.
And then they'll put it down, and then they'll kind of look at us, and I'm like, go get seconds, man. And they're like, it's okay. And I'm like, yeah, dude, go get seconds.
Yeah.
They'll get up, bro. They'll fucking. We've even all eaten, bro.
Yeah.
And left the table, and I'm like, hey, man, you good? Do you want anything? He's like, oh no, I'm good. I'm like, this is his third fucking plate.
Damn.
But it's like, I have to eat. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm like, I have to eat, or because when I get home, there's not going to be anything to eat.
It's possible.
And I'm like, shit, dude. So what?
Either that, or they're real strict at home on what they can eat. And they're just not used to having what you're offering. And they're just like, holy shit.
Veronica's son, bro. Every time he would come over, he's like, as soon as we walk through the fucking door, can I have some cereal? I'm like, yeah, because he don't get to have sweets at his house.
Right.
So I was like, man, I'll bowl of fucking Fruity Pebbles, bro, and I'll fill it up. He'll sit there just
scarf that shit down.
That shit.
I'll throw my sister under the bus again, because whenever I was 15, I got a ticket. I got a ticket for driving my friend's car at night, and I ran a red light on accident anyways. So I had like this $200 ticket that I had to pay off. And so I didn't really know how to because I was like 14, 15 at the time. And I was just like, fuck, I'm screwed because I don't know how to, I have no way of making income. Well, my sister comes down with my two nieces, and my sister's a huge health nut. And I've called her out on this like several times, especially whenever her daughters are around now because they're 20. And they're like, yeah, Mom, what the fuck? But
wait. So your nieces are 20?
My nieces are 20 now. Yeah.
You're 29. How old is your sister?
Oh, God. 43?
Whoa, that's a huge age gap.
Yeah. My older brother's 11 years older than I am. My sisters are 14 years older, and then my oldest brother is 49, I believe.
That's like me and my sister.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
My sister's
you're like 50.
Whoa, bro. Whoa.
Yeah.
I was just kidding.
But so they come over, and she was like, I'll make you a deal. I'll pay you money to babysit them so I can go run some errands today. It's like a Saturday or some shit. Or it's in the summer. But so I was like, all right, cool. How hard is it to look after, like, I think they were like 5 at the time, something like that. And so teach them how to shoot a BB gun, yada, yada, yada. Well, snack time comes along, and I give them a fucking Pop-Tart. One pack, one Pop-Tart apiece, whatever. They love it. They were having a fucking ball. I got a call 2 days later. You gave my fucking kids what? You gave them a Pop-Tart? Miller, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was just like, whoa, I was a kid too. Like, I didn't
fucking Pop-Tart.
I didn't know. I was like, my bad, I didn't know. And she was like, my kids don't eat that shit. Like, that's so bad for you, blah, blah, blah. And lo and behold, now she just lets her youngest daughter have whatever she wants to. But every time
you tainted the soul already.
Well, yeah. Well, at that point too, now she lets her youngest daughter have whatever she wants. But now, whenever I tell that same story, and they're in the room, they're like, "Yeah, Mom, what the fuck was that about? You just let Rylan do whatever she wants to. But whenever we were kids, we couldn't eat anything except for fucking vegetables."
How many kids is that? 3
She
kids?
has 3. She has 3 kids.
I don't know. I totally get that, man. By my 4th one, I was like, yeah, you just eat whatever.
And that's what
don't choke.
Yeah, that's what I ended up being, was because I was my dad's 5th kid, and I, in retrospect, all of them look at me and they're like, "Yeah, you had it so much better than us."
Yeah,
that's why I look the way I do.
Yeah, it's like I don't know about necessarily better. It's just more.
Yeah,
there's
he became a lot more lenient. Yeah,
because my first one, bro. God, we were fucking protected her over everything.
Yeah.
The second one came along, you're like, all right, you kind of eased up a little bit on all the kids. That third one came, and you're just like, it's no big deal, you know. He bumped his head, he'll be fine.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that 4th one, fuck.
Well, I think too.
You
just realize that it's not the fucking end of the world.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's just not the big scary, like, oh no, they had a Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to develop diabetes off of Pop-Tart.
Yeah, that's what's funny, because I when you meet parents, right, and they got their first kid, and they're so protective and
extra protective,
extra, and I'm just like, yo, calm down. I was like, well, she's got this. That's not a fuck. She's nothing wrong with her.
Yeah. I wonder if it's better for the psyche in the long run to have more than one kid. Just because,
for sure.
Because single kid homes just wind up like. No disrespect to my friends or anybody that comes from a single kid and don't have like siblings, but they sometimes are a little bit off. Like they didn't. Because they still become the center of attention for the parents, but also it's like
they expect that all the time.
But they're also raised under some of the strictest guidelines. Like,
yes, but they also need the sibling, man, to bounce some ideas off of. You know what I mean? There's a balance there, and I noticed that with my brothers, because me and my older brother we're only 10 months apart.
Right.
You know, so you need that back and forth, that banter with somebody. Because if you don't, you can't relate to the goddamn to the 2 adults that are in the room that are telling you don't do that.
Well, so in retrospect,
or to a kid that comes on that's 6 years younger than you. There's no relation.
No.
Yeah. So in retrospect, because you have your daughter, right? Yes. So, but how many kids do you have?
Just the one.
Okay, but so I guess now in that diversity, do you feel like it was better for you to have your daughter first, because then you had 3 boys? So, like, because most parents will raise a daughter more strict than they will their sons.
No, in my house, it wasn't like that. They all got, she got a little bit more treatment because, she was a girl. You know, she wasn't my first one. But there wasn't, I never differentiated that because I didn't grow up with a sister. I don't have sisters. Right. You know, I got 4 other brothers. So it's fucking, kill or be killed. You know what I mean? You got to eat. That famine mentality, you know. So I couldn't race her that way because I didn't know how to race her that way. You know what I mean? So it's just like, no, you're one of the boys. I mean, she's more. I wish I'll tell her she's a little tomboyish.
That's kind of how I raised my daughter too. Because I mean, I didn't know how to raise a girl, so she grew up like a tomboy.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't until she was like in high school that she started, you know, coming out of that tomboy shell and then actually being a girl.
Which is funny because I mean, her boyfriend listens to this, right? And he did bring that up the other day. He's like, "Bro, she's exactly like you, fucking attitude and all." You know, she's mean. She's mean because she can be a bit. I'm sure she'll listen. She can be a bit of an asshole. You know, but I mean, that's how I raised her. I was like, I don't want you to be like, yes, sir, whatever, no shit like that. You know, I mean, she's respectful, but she's not. You're not gonna walk all over.
Well, you know, even Amy said something about that earlier. She said, like, Ariana's small, but like, you know, nobody's gonna mess with her. I was like, yeah, because she also plays fucking rugby. Yeah. Like, she will beat most grown men's asses if they try.
She's definitely not a Gertie girl.
No,
she's not a Gertie girl. But then again, we didn't raise her that way because that's just not.
That's not who y'all are.
That's not who we are.
Yeah. But it's funny is like sometimes like because like I do all the social media like on Instagram. She's on the Instagram What I Do page, and I forget sometimes, and I post shit, and I forget like, oh man, maybe that was a little off taste because she'll look at it and I kind of feel bad, and I'm like, oh, she probably doesn't really care, but I feel bad, you know, because that's like, I mean, technically that's my little cousin, you know. So it's
I wouldn't feel so bad, man, because sometimes cause she comes to the house, right? Of course, she's living on her own. She was living with a boyfriend, right? So she'll say something, and I'm just like, look, I understand that you're grown up, but can you chill with the words?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
you be dropping F-bombs like
dude, she's like, I mean, that fucking bitch. And I'm like, can you at least just fucking have some kind of restraint? Just like,
I don't cuss that much in front of my parents. If I drop one, I'm like, ooh, and I catch myself, and I won't do it. I don't know if it's a respect thing or what, but I'll try to like change my language.
Well, when she does it, she catches herself. You know, she's like, sorry, you know, but it's just like it's just word vomit, you know. Yeah. But I cuss in front of them. I don't.
Well, you have 4 chairs. Shit. Y'all should have the daughters on sometime because you have a pretty successful daughter, and your daughter is a pilot now. Yeah. So
well, she's a pilot. I mean, I did talk to her about.
That would be a good one to have both of them on at the same time.
Yeah.
Because we have had Kristen on before. That was actually a pretty good one. I gave her bug juice.
What is bug juice?
It's like a little kid's drink that they sell
at. It has like an animal head.
Beer. Instead of offering everybody like her beer like the way we do everybody else, I brought her a bug juice.
I think that's also a really fun rite of passage though. The first time you get drunk with your parents, if you're into that kind of shit.
Oh yeah.
Because then personalities really start developing. Yeah. Like the few times that I've got to actually hang out with my siblings and then we tie one on, my God, it just, everything comes out and it's just like, I think last year we went to Billy Bob's to go watch Flatland and Zach Top play, and my sister works for Marriott, and so she got us really nice hotels. Well, the party didn't stop at the end of the concert. We went back to the hotel and we were drinking, and we'd go outside and smoke cigarettes and have this big family fiasco. Well, my older sister decided to get bulky on me and tried to be like, I'm a big man, you. And I just like literally just picked her up and just threw her on the bed. And she was like, oh, one more time. And I think I wound up throwing her on the bed like probably 10 to 12 times. And she woke up the next day and she was like, this is the last fucking time I try that with you. Because I was like, I can't imagine what you were like whenever you were my age or when you were in your 20s and you were out there running around acting like a heathen.
I miss those days.
Yeah.
I do sometimes, but I'm like, hey, you're right. You grew out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it was fun. God damn.
I will say this about, because my daughter has been over to the house sometimes like for different holidays. I think it was like Halloween this particular time. And she was drinking with us. We were playing like Uno or something. And everybody was drinking, having a good time. And then after the Uno game kind of stopped. And then just the conversation just kept going. And that's when the real story came out about the Tahoe wreck.
Yeah.
Shit! Yeah. I haven't heard about this.
You haven't heard about that? So I had given her her vehicle in high school was a 2-door Tahoe, and it's pretty sharp truck. And that was her vehicle in high school, but I was still pretty strict on where she couldn't go in it, you know. And this one particular time, I was being nice, and I was like, yes, she was going to stay the night at her friend's house, and I was like, yeah, you can take the Tahoe. Back in my head, I was like, I probably shouldn't let her take the Tahoe. Yeah, it was a bad idea. I get a phone call that night. They had a wreck. And I was like, You were supposed to just go there and stay the night. You weren't supposed to be out driving around or nothing like that. Well, the story that they told me that night, her and her friends, they figured out the story. Of course, right? They
wanted to go get food.
Yeah, and they were coming back from like wherever, getting food or whatever, and a dog had ran out in front of them, and they swerved to miss it and hit a fire hydrant.
That's a good story, though.
Right?
That's a great story.
They did hit a fire hydrant. They were a little banged up. It wasn't like nothing crazy, like they were hauling ass racing, and it was believable. And I was like, damn, all right, whatever. So here we are years later. I'm talking years later. She was 21, I guess, at the time.
Yeah.
Now,
she also said this on the podcast.
She said it on the podcast because I made her say it on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But, so the story comes out, that's not what happened at all.
Oh, really?
You remember that Kiki challenge?
Yeah.
They were doing the fucking Kiki challenge.
No. See, and that's
she actually could have died because the reason why her knees were all scraped up is because she
fell.
got pulled. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that one, the viral video of the girl getting out of the car trying to do it, and she just
and her friend was trying to hold the vehicle straight, and then she trips, and her friend trips out, and then boom, it hits a fucking fire hydrant. And I think the fire hydrant probably kept the vehicle from driving over her.
Oh, well, I mean, that's a blessing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that would have sucked.
Yeah,
over a fucking Kiki challenge.
Yeah,
fuck, that's hilarious.
Was that a TikTok thing or was that just?
I think that was like
Instagram,
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook.
I mean, all of that kind of coincides with each other nowadays, doesn't it? Like,
oh yeah.
Once it hits one platform, it has to go to all of them, and then next thing you know, everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, though, we still have that Carolina beef jerky.
Open
Carolina
Break it open.
beef jerky. I picked this up at the gas station earlier today, and I was like, you know what? We might add this as a nice little
I
spice
want to get
to the
some
show.
smelling salts in here
Okay.
and just have people try it. I want to try it because I'm curious.
Have you never done it?
No.
Oh, well, so we had it a lot whenever I was a power lifter, and I'll order some if we decide that by the end of this that we want to do a part 2.
Okay.
And I got the most potent one, and here.
What's the most potent one called?
Appreciate it.
I can't remember what it was called. I'd have to look back on it.
That's mine.
I'm opted. We're good.
It's all good.
Because of inflation, the 5-second rule is now a 15-second
There
rule.
you go. There you
go. I can't remember what it's called, but I think there's a good time. I was out of town. Ooh, a little spicy.
At first, it wasn't a big deal, but then it kind of kicks in.
So I was out of town, and my friends like to party, and whether it be like Adderall or whatever the case may be. And I was like, I have smelling salts for whenever I'm lifting, whenever I want to hit like a PR with deadlifts or whatever. Go into my gym bag and find it, and then just sniff it. So they FaceTime me, and they're like, all right, how do we do this? Take off the cap after you shake it up. Get the ammonia in there, like kind of moving. Take off the cap, and don't put your nose within 6 inches of it. It'll hit you. Well, they go and they try to go hit it, and they're like, I can't do anything. They put their nose to it, and they whiff it,
God.
and immediate tears just running down their face. Just, oh my God, I can't see. It burns. I'm like, yeah. It's meant to be able to go hit a 500-pound deadlift off of just rip. Like, it kicks up your
like adrenaline or
yeah.
Okay.
It's the same stuff as like what EMTs would use whenever they're trying to bring people back from
shit. Okay.
When somebody
fainting.
gets knocked out boxing or in UFC, that's how they bring them. That's how they bring them. Snap them out of it.
No shit.
When they're laying on the canvas, pass the fuck out. They put some smelling salts in front of them. They usually just boom.
Dude, I'm down for that. I'll get that. You ever heard that? It's a fish, but it's a fermented fish. Now, no, I'm lying. I'm lying because it comes in a can.
Oh, shit.
And they don't like. It's not. I don't know exactly. Like it rots inside the can. And there's this challenge, right, where people try to open it and they try to eat the sardine. But just opening the can, bro, people are fucking vomiting all over the place.
What
See,
the
now that's a TikTok challenge I can get behind because that sounds fun. That sounds funny.
Yeah, we're gonna try that shit.
I don't know if I want to throw up everywhere.
Yeah,
Cleaning up this motherfucker in here.
Oh yeah, we do it outside.
Yeah, we can do it outside.
We'll set up a video out there, and I'm like,
But I am interested in the smelling salts because it looks fucking wild. It seems like, man, that'll get you going. Like, we're about to do this podcast. Just to wake up and get this going.
Hell yeah.
Especially the reason why I didn't join y'all in the big steaks that y'all were eating.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I would have ate that shit, I would have been worthless. Totally fucking worthless. I would have just been sitting here just full. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just full.
ugh.
I think it's called the brand, not affiliated or sponsored,
Okay,
is
could be though.
Zone Smelling Salts, and I think the one that it's Zone Norse Blood is what it's called.
God, it even sounds fucking
Hell
epic
yeah.
right there.
Yeah, it's in a red bottle. I mean,
Norse blood. Those are the guys that do the fucking the
Yeah,
big those
Nordic
challenges.
shit,
Yeah,
yeah.
The big what do they call it? The
Strongman.
strongman contest.
Yeah.
Oh, no
These
shit.
big massive dudes
Oh,
that go
yeah,
pick
yeah,
up a boulder.
The big Viking looking motherfuckers.
Yes,
Yeah.
they'll pick up a huge boulder and walk 100 yards with it.
Eddie Hall's the world's strongest man, and he deadlifted like around 1,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what competition regulations say about it, but I know that in some federations you can use it, in some federations you can't. But it'll get you where you need to go pretty quick.
God damn. So it's ammonia. It's just a hard hit ammonia
So-
and some other shit.
There,
Not sure.
Yeah.
I have this seasoning at home called Good Luck from a place called Rule the Roost in Weatherford.
Uh-huh.
And their spiciest seasoning is called Good Luck, and they sell it. And I have it at the house, but it's essentially, imagine what like the Carolina Reaper, like if you were to actually eat like, or even like a habanero, if you were to eat a raw habanero or even a really good jalapeno, upscale that to like a ghost pepper or a Carolina Reaper. This shit is very much so like that for your nasal passages instead of your taste buds.
Does it burn?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fuck yeah, it burns.
Burn?
Yeah, that's what kicks up your adrenaline. You're like, ooh. That's
So
why your eyes water.
It's ammonium carbonate. It's a smelling salts, also known as ammonia inhalant, spirit, hartshorn, sol volatile, or chemical compounds and stimulants used to restore consciousness after fainting. But it's ammonium carbonate.
All right.
There you go.
Just fucking.
After about
Put some
3
Coke
more
in
of
my
those
nose.
tequilas, it probably wouldn't be a bad thing to just have it sitting on the table. Like,
Yeah,
oh
right.
Jesus!
Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Not about it. Where do you get that? Could you get
You
that
can just
shit here
order
in
it.
town?
Yeah, no, you just order it online. Yeah, because I don't think that. I mean, I know Maximus carries a. I guess it'd probably be a less potent smelling salt, but
Okay.
something similar to it. But yeah, I would just order it online, especially if you want like the real ass kicker. If you're gonna do something, you might as well go balls to the wall. I'm not
Yeah, that-
endorsing doing methamphetamine, but like.
Yeah. That's just the devil.
Look at
Yeah.
the,
The
look at the
diablo.
advertisement.
What the fuck is it? Chinese?
Yeah, fucking right. She's
Oh,
she's just sitting. Oh, yeah.
It smells like dandelions. No,
Like, you ever need something refreshing? Just a quick pick me up? Like, no, bitch. I'm not gonna put that shit. In there.
I've had 2 iced coffees today. I think I'm gonna hit some smelling
smelling
salts. Like, no, fuck no. I do not endorse that. That is not a thing.
Before I hit the garden, let me get some smelling salts in.
Yeah,
She breaks out her necklace, puts a little spoon in there.
Oh shit!
yeah. Do not sniff it. Do not. It's a waft. Do not put it in your nose.
And you said 6 inches is keep it from your nose.
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually a pretty far distance, and it still hits you like that.
Oh yeah.
Well, once that shit comes up.
There was an episode with you ever heard of Joe Rogan? He has this like little podcast.
I think I've heard of it. Something. It's like a small podcast out of Austin, right?
Yeah. He had a Theo Vaughn on there, and I think it was the first time because he's had him on several times, but it was the first time Theo Vaughn did it with him. And Theo Vaughn was like, I'm not getting nothing. He was like, well, just wait. And he just goes, boom, and fucking like stuck his nose in there and fucking hit it. And I mean, it fucked him up, but then he wanted to do it again.
Yeah.
But it's Theo Vaughn. He's a fucking wild.
It's that
wild-
hillbilly side of him,
It's a
bro. He's
wild
that guy
boy
that
right
had no
there.
coke in his.
I mean, yeah,
coke in
you're-
his body.
Yeah, you're
He
riffing it pretty fucking hard at that point because
he's those guys that crush up meth and snort meth. I
God.
don't know how people can do.
Like Tuco. And he's all.
I don't know if people can do that shit, man. But just in case somebody's sitting here listening and wondering what day it is, right? It's November 6th.
November 6th.
Yesterday was the election.
election day.
Today was a very emotional day for a lot of people.
Yes, it was.
Especially on social media.
I enjoyed it.
Good Lord.
I enjoyed the shit out of it.
Did you?
Now, Of course, I voted for Trump. I'll say it. I voted for Trump. And
Wow.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
suck. You have daughter. You have a daughter.
I was like, oh, it turns out I don't love my daughter now. I don't love her now. And
Those are actually pretty good, man.
they're pretty
not
good.
bad.
Yeah.
Put some more if you want some.
Thank you.
I voted pretty much Republican, right? The only one guy I didn't vote for was Ted Cruz. I wanted him out. He needed that whole bullshit. We talked about it. That whole where he wanted to prosecute people who left the state to have abortions and stuff like that. Where it's like, man, you can't dictate what happens in another state. Stick to your own ground.
Yeah.
So I didn't vote for him. I voted for that Colin guy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I left Ted Cruz off of. I voted for a liberal on that one, or not. It wasn't liberal. It was what do they call it? Libertarian.
Yeah, I went libertarian on it.
Yeah, because he went too far, bro. Like, what the fuck? That whole fucking shit where he was like, so there's a whole abortion thing, but then he was like, he wanted to put into place where if you go to another state, we want to track you.
Yeah.
And if you go over there and do this, then
You already violated my privacy to find that out.
yes,
Shout out to the Patriarch.
No shit. That place is like, okay,
Thanks,
so
Obama.
where does that stop at? So say somebody goes to Vegas and they smoke weed and you're from Texas and it's illegal. Does that mean they're going to go and fucking get you for that too? I mean, why
Well,
not?
you open the door to
Why
it.
would it stop at that?
Yeah.
You know?
Where it's like, hey,
it's a fucking, it's fucked up. So I left it off because I was like, this is bullshit. Like that. Now you're really going far.
Yeah.
You're really, and that they always do that, right?
Yeah.
They always go just
well,
that
yeah, that's the problem with
little bit extra,
Yeah.
and it's all of them. It's Democrats, Republicans, all of them. They all do that shit.
They got this nice little plan, right? And I feel like sometimes they're sitting in this room, right? And they come up with this bullshit plan and they put it out there, and then they see the feedback that comes out of it, and they're like, "Oh, that was good. Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit further. See how far I can go before everybody starts to turn on me. And once I get to that point, I'm just like, well, it turns out maybe that's not they kind of back off on it a little bit and stay right there. They stay in their lane after that. But I'm like, dude, fucking stop, bro. Stop. What are you doing?
It's because the more power that they can consume, the better off they feel like they dictate. Everybody wants to play God nowadays.
Yeah. Well, it feeds into their ego.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they're just like, because I mean, I'm sure when you get to that position, right? Everyone's kissed your ass up to that point.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, that's a good idea, sir. That's fucking great, sir. Blah blah blah. Everything's sir, sir, sir. You're in this position of authority, and everybody thinks
You live in an echo chamber of your own ego because that way that nobody's gonna. The issue is that unless there's no such thing as partisan agreement anymore, which kind of sucks or disagreement anymore because you have to align with everything, especially in politics, to be able to get where you want to go. So you have to play that ass kissing game right off the bat.
Yes.
And so nowadays, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit already. It's like, this is just the rabbit hole. This is where everybody's engine starts really.
Yes.
But you start in this mediated area where you can have an authority, and then it becomes you become an authoritarian because you have so many people and you have the power to be able to say, if you disagree with me, your ass is grass.
Yes.
So that's already constituting the idea that you actually don't have a say in absolutely anything at all. You have to continuously go along with everything.
Yeah.
And
it seems like everybody there is just playing survival mode.
yeah.
Just fucking, you pander who you got to pander to. You make sure you find your clique. When you work these corporate jobs, right? You can't go and be your lone guy.
Yeah.
No, you're a fucking target.
That's why the independent campaign doesn't really work out,
never
right?
really works, exactly. Because you have to click up. You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. If not, you're not going to survive. You're not.
Well, even right before we decided to hit, fucking record, it was weird. While you were in the restroom, we were talking about the initial differences between conservative Christians and Christians that are conservative is because we allow too many people. Well, we allow our political ideologies to dictate our theological to the certain extent that yesterday or even this morning kind of proved that there were people that were really fed up with the system, be it as it was. Maybe now we'll see it change a little bit. Yeah. So I heavily disagree with people that are like, oh, the next 4 years are going to be awful. It's like, first of all, you already lived through the first 4 years 8 years ago. Like, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
The last 4 years, if you haven't noticed, really sucked a lot for people that it actually affected, which was majority of the population. And if you can't see that, then you're not really representing anybody except for yourself. And that's just
as fast as delegates were won, the votes and everything, that showed right then and there.
Right.
I mean, because how many votes did Trump win by? I think the last time I looked was at 1 o'clock in the morning. He was up by almost 5 million votes.
Right.
You know, so that tells you right there. Does it? No matter what side you fit on, everyone else that did vote for him is completely disagreeing of you, of your opinion. You know,
a lot of people jumped over. You know, that were on the other side that just were tired of the bullshit, and they fucking were like, you know,
So it was clear as day.
Different.
Yeah, it was clear as day that everybody was feeling a type of way these past 4 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
what is it? We talked about this earlier. 12 of the last 16 years have been controlled by Democrats.
Yeah.
And
because Obama's double election, then Trump broke it up, and then
Biden. Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what's going to happen in the next 4 after this. If it's going to be a setup for Vance to be able to go on and run, which I think he's pretty competent. He's very young. Yes. A lot of people want like a younger person. The disagreement about whether or not Kamala or Trump got in, but then everybody took into account like Trump's age because he's like 2 years younger than Biden or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And
but boy, he's sharp though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, cognitively he is sharp, but also I think something that people generally looked over with Biden was the fact that he's had 2 brain surgeries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, even if you agree with the progressive Democratic point of view, to see the cognitive decline over the past 4 years with Biden, and then it wasn't until like the last 6 months that his VP came out and said, oh yeah, you know, he might be a little bit incompetent. It's just like, you've seen this over you can't trust somebody like that. Yeah. So you're sitting on a landmine and you were just waiting for people to walk across it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You were hoping that things were going to work out your way and it was just going to be all swept under the rug. And it's just like, it's just a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. Man. I mean, I called it, you know, when they had the primaries and shit like that. I was like, they're going to push him through.
Yeah.
Right. And then they're going to, because I was hearing different people talk about this, right? They're like, they're gonna push through the fucking primaries. They're going to put Biden there. So at the end of all this bullshit, right, they're going to get him out and they're going to put somebody else in because that way it eliminates the whole primary bullshit.
Right.
Right. So obviously that's what they did.
Well,
and then you saw the fucking machine. Like somebody, I mean, it was crazy because almost like somebody going up to a button or to a machine and flipping the on button. You see this machine push her everywhere.
Yeah.
Before, didn't win any fucking primaries before because she, I mean, like people forgot. She actually tried to run for president, you know, didn't get any fucking votes.
Yeah, in 2020?
In 2020, you know. So, and all of a sudden, you know, the fucking machine kicks on. And she's a saver. She's who we need in the office.
That's my girl.
While in that 2020 election as well, during the debates for the Democratic nominee to run against Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, who is now serving on Trump's staff and cabinet, at that point in time was a Democrat and shut her the fuck down.
Her and Nikki Haley.
Yeah, on the debate stage, shut them down. And everybody forgot about it. Because, you know, it's one thing to say you want a woman in power, which is totally fine. It is what it is. But to have the wrong woman in power.
Yeah.
Like, and especially one that has already shown her incompetence to be able to debate somebody. And the fact that the person that beat her in the debate is now on the cabinet of the now serving 47th president of the United States really shows the divisiveness. I think I'm not Trump's biggest fan, but I voted for Trump. And I mean, it is what I'm not going to say that I voted for Kamala because, like, I didn't. Yeah. But also, like, you kind of saw the onset.
Yeah.
And, like...
which is mind-blowing to me, too, though, because... They wanted a woman, right? If you wanted a woman, you want somebody who's a minority. You want somebody who's got experience. You literally railroaded Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi was a one.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's because it doesn't fit into the rhetoric or the propaganda that they wanted to be able to serve.
Yes,
because
exactly right.
Kamala is more of a figurehead, anyways, right? So you have people that this kind of goes back to the idea of what we were just talking about with conservative Christian conservatives and like tribalism is as soon as you have a disagreement with people that are generally irrational without hearing out anything, you're immediately booted. Mm-hmm. And I think that was one of the biggest demises, and will be the demise of a lot of progressive ideologies, because a lot of the old head Democrats jumped ship mainly because of that extremism that came from the left, was because there were things that people were getting on board with. And even you saw this 10 years ago whenever they legalized gay marriage in America and started doing it through the states, and then it became federal, was, you know, a lot of the older gay LGBT communities were talking about like, oh, well, this is equality. Like, we can go marry our significant others or whatever the case may be, our partners. And then you saw it kind of turn more into forcefulness. Like, you will acknowledge us. You will be.
You will bake that cake.
You will bend the knee to how we feel. And then you saw a bunch of the old heads that were LGBT or LGB at that point in time, because, like, I mean, there a little bit of nuance for a lot of people that have yet to acknowledge this before transitioning. If you were a male that wanted to be like a woman, you're just androgynous. Like, and that was a term that was like really shuddered to in the 80s, whenever that whole, when like what George Michael and all those pop stars like started like kind of cross-dressing and stuff like that. But they were like, you guys are taking this too far. You can't forcibly tell people what to believe or how to feel about something. And I think nowadays with like misogyny, so you disagree with Kamala Harris being president of the United States because you feel like she's incompetent, you're misogynistic now. Or for whatever reason, they base qualifications off of race, and so you're racist now. And it's just like, remember when those words actually had real definitive meaning?
Yeah.
Whenever you couldn't call somebody a racial slur or let them in to your establishment based off of the color of their skin, or you couldn't have direct hateful rhetoric because of that.
Yeah.
You know, so just touch on that real quick. Let it be the other way around. Let's just say, hypothetically, Trump is a black man or a brown man or anything else, right? It would be the other way around. Like, how do I say that? Like, you couldn't say that to them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, y'all are being racist. Like, oh no, you know.
You couldn't flip it.
They can say it to Republicans, but you couldn't flip it on them.
That's coming from a Hispanic man that has your daughter's quarter black.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, that's just an observation from a guy that's not a white guy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But to that point, even what you were talking about with Tulsi Gabbard, you want a black guy to be a president? Ben Carson. Perfectly suitable, very well accomplished doctor that could have easily become the president.
Yes.
And he's black. But they didn't want that because he was a Republican. So you start shaving off all this shit.
Yeah, it doesn't fit their narrative. It doesn't fit with,
And again, you know, a lot of the people that believe in like the socialist agenda or communist agenda have also never experienced it. They only hear about it in theory because they believe like outcome equality or whatever it was that we were talking about.
Equality of outcome or some shit.
Exactly. And you believe that until you realize that you've been working the same shitty job for fucking 10 years and you've gotten nowhere because you want one thing but one thing's never enough.
Yes.
Because the next thing you know, you're like, oh, I want a pay raise. And it's just like, well, you don't get a pay raise because you get to make the same amount that so-and-so. But the deposition comes from the fact that you never get anywhere with that. It's only for the temporary, because you want to give equal rights and equal outcome to absolutely everybody. Well, who controls that? Not you.
Yeah.
You're conceding to wanting to be at the very bottom of the totem pole. But you had the say in being able to be like, oh, well, at least I made the difference by trying to give everybody equal opportunity in the outcome that they have. But then 10 years down the line, nobody's fucking thanking you because you've literally just stunted everybody. Exactly. And you've politically locked people in power and control of money, management, business, anything.
Yeah. That's why when you sit there, you can go to Florida and talk to some of these Cubans. They'll tell you straight up, they're the hardest core fucking Republicans that come from anywhere because they know exactly what they're running from. They know what socialism is. Yes, it'd be great fucking if we had this whole kumbaya shit, but it's not like that. Well, and it'll never be like that. And And if it ever does become like that, it'll get to a point where, because there's always like what I always call, there's always a hierarchy. There's always somebody in charge, and that somebody in charge is human, and that human nature always kicks in, and that human nature will always want more power, and that human nature will always say, "I know better than you."
They will do anything to keep it too.
Exactly.
Well, I want to know something. Actually, I want to talk to somebody that really believes that on a format where we can actually like sit down and have this conversation recorded. I want to know the means to the end. I don't want it to be the short 5-year goal that you get to have the equal outcome. And everybody wants to be able to own a house. Everybody wants to have a family, or maybe not everybody, but everybody wants to own a house. Everybody wants to be able to afford to live. Everybody wants groceries and everything like that.
Yeah.
But what is the long-term outcome? Like, what are you trying to achieve that really validates in specifics, the idea that you get to dictate this for everybody? Because your views of what you want might not be the same as the person next to you.
I don't think that could ever happen because everybody's argument can be torn down.
Right.
I don't
exactly.
It doesn't matter where you go because you're right. Everybody's argument can be fucking broken down to the simplest point because it eventually comes down to a point you're going to have to infringe on someone else's rights.
Right.
To get your outcome. Yeah.
But that's the thing that they don't want you to do is they don't want you to infringe upon their rights. Yes. And that's what's insane.
Yes. We can
this is a logical
because we know better. You know, we want equality for everybody. Yeah, but to what extent though?
Yeah.
To the extent that I have to give up something for you to have that.
And then you're also allowing somebody else to dictate for you what your equality looks like because you're not going to be the person in charge. Yeah. They've fooled you into thinking that you'll be able to dictate your own or manifest your own destiny with being able to have this solution of equitable outcome and have everything that you want, but you don't even know what you want.
Yeah.
Like, where do you want to live? Well, maybe you don't get to live there. What house do you want that equal outcome? You can have a fucking 500 square foot apartment like they do in China, and you get to go work 12 hours a day, and you don't get to have any sort of life. You'll have bare minimum, and that's the thing. That's what comes along with it. Is it's absolutely bare minimum. You get to live, eat, and sleep. But what you don't get to do your trips. You don't get to go have fun. You don't get to go out and drink and socialize. Yeah. You get to work every single day for the rest of your nihilistic fucking life, and because you think that you have the entitlement to be able to dictate for other people.
Yes, and what people don't understand that is it trying to live that way, trying to make the equal outcome for everybody, always leads to two things. It either leads to communism or it leads to dictatorship because somebody has to be the arbiter of you get this, you get this, you get this.
On the off chance that somebody is listening to this that actually wants to have that conversation, get a hold of me. Let's sit down and have that conversation. Any of y'all are welcome to do it. We could do it right here.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I would love to be able to hear that excuse because I grew up, and I mean, I know that we've all kind of grown up in our own circumstances because everybody's circumstances change.
Yes.
But I was even explaining to somebody earlier 6-7 years ago, like my trade that I'm in right now, I'm blessed to be where I'm at, and I attribute all of it to God. Once I gave myself to him, it was just one of those things where it was just, he carried me through everything that I am and where I'm at now. But I remember a time in my life whenever I grew up in a much bigger house. I mean, we were eating above our means, and that was mainly because of where my mom figured she could fall in that scale of living. Mm-hmm. But I remember working at Taco Bell, getting a paycheck for $300 every 2 weeks. And even before that, realizing where I was at and what I was doing was completely, I wasn't making anything. I would have to sit there and decide on a 3-day time period. Do I want gas? Do I want cigarettes or do I want food? And that's where it led me, was because that was it. Yeah. That was bare minimum. And I got enough money to be able to have one of the three. Now I could eat $2 or $1 burritos from Taco Bell. So you really learn how to scrounge and fucking figure out what you want.
Shout out to the fucking Jack in Box tacos.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, 50 cents, bro.
But cigarettes at that point in time were still like $6 a pack.
Yeah.
I could scrape together some coins in my room, maybe get away with like maybe $14. Put $5 of gas in, because even at that point in time, I think that gas was still around $2, and I was driving an old car that I had maybe like 20 miles to the gallon on. So I could get away with having 3 gallons of gas that would carry me to and from work, and I was able to eat on a few dollars worth of food a day because I was only eating once a day, or even if where I was working at, you know, whenever I worked at Taco Bell, they'd give you one free meal on your shift, and that'd be the one time that I ate. And then whenever I stopped working there and I worked at another restaurant, I made my own limitations by deciding the dietary choice that I had, but I was only eating French fries, and I was only eating once a day.
Yeah.
And I was still able to afford my pack of cigarettes, but I mean, at the end of the end, people say that's a choice, and you're right, it was a choice, but still, what else are you going to do for $10? What else are you going to get for $10? And you're going to sit here and tell me that you want that for fucking everybody because you haven't been able to figure out what you're good at in life, and you're still young. Most of this ideology really comes from younger people that are exposed to the idea that in a vulnerable position economically or financially, that there is this solution, there's this answer.
Well, I think it also comes from the household too, right? Because there's this fucking saying that like divorced people get, right? Or that I've heard in divorce proceedings. It's what I'm accustomed to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you don't get to leave your parents' house and continue like I just having a livable wage. People don't understand that what you went through, $10 a day, right?
Right.
Or the fucking Jack in the Box 50-cent tacos.
Yeah, not even $10 a day. It was like probably $10 every 3 days.
Every 3 days.
Yeah.
You know, the tacos for me and Amy, you know, that solidified where, hey, we're going to build you up to the point where you're going to be able to own a house. Yes.
Yeah.
Was it cheap? Fuck no, it wasn't cheap.
Yeah.
You know, none of it's fucking cheap. It beat me to a place to become a business owner. Granted, a failed one, but whatever. You know, I got it started to the point where I am now.
Right, but you failed and you got back up and you tried again.
And these people, they don't want to go through that. I guess their rite of passage.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to.
It's too hard.
Yeah, figure out who the fuck you are.
But that's a huge thing about it, though, is what I think that there's been this big miscommunication between the generations, because a lot of our parents, we watched work hard for what they have, and that's what they tell you. They're like, work hard for what you want. But nobody actually sits down and tells you, like, yeah, this shit fucking sucks.
Yeah, no.
It's tough. It is.
I have that talk with my kids all the time, man.
But you're sitting there communicating it with them, and I think that that's something that maybe people are deprived of. So, you know, again, let me reiterate: if you're listening to this, these two gentlemen sitting in front of me, we can all agree it fucking sucks.
It sucks.
Nobody fucking promises you that it's not going to be easy. But I assure you one thing, and that's whether it's somebody in your family or somebody you're friends with, or maybe you can find a mentor or something like that. There is help out there for people that want it or need it. And you just have to be willing to submit yourself to being a little bit more humble. And, you know, I think every one of us, given the situation, will still give a homeless guy $5 that's sitting outside of a fucking gas station to go get a water or some shit like that, which is totally fine. But don't expect that whenever you're still sitting in your parents' home, because I remember I remember there was a guy who posted on Instagram one time, like, hey, I'm moving out of my parents' house, and just if y'all have any sort of recommendations on what I can do to make the transition a little bit easier. I didn't say, you know, like, make sure you get fucking plants. I didn't say make sure, you know, you buy a laundry basket or a trash can. I fucking messaged him. I was like, toilet paper. Because it's going to be a real shitty situation, no pun intended. What you fucking become accustomed to is having toilet paper in the house. Now, you can always hop in the shower and clean your ass, whatever. But
a full body bidet.
You realize how, you realize, and the credit card swipe right between the cheeks. But you realize that there are, like, you getting out on your own, you're like, oh man, like, I never really thought about having to buy toilet paper before. Buy a toilet paper. Buy a lot of it.
Taken for granted,
Yeah, buy a lot of it, but not so much that you're buying HEB out of stock like these fucking idiots keep doing every time they think the world's gonna end. But buy toilet paper. Start off like that. And again, it's one of those things where it's not easy.
Yeah.
But it's even the simple things that you can start instilling into your life every day. Realistically, everybody says start by making your bed, and that's going to make the biggest impact. But again, it really does work.
Yes.
Because that's the start of your day.
But
you accomplish something.
Yeah, it's the same thing with brushing your teeth. But you're only brushing your teeth because it's hygienic and it's something that you can do to benefit yourself.
Yeah.
But we don't look at making the bed that same way. The same thing. Like stop go. And I mean, I get the groceries are expensive right now, but figure out an alternative. Make everything in bulk. Meal prep your food for the week.
Yep.
If you sit, it does take time, but I mean, it takes me maybe no longer than 30 minutes. You can go buy chicken for $10.
Yeah, but people won't do that. People can just complain.
Yeah.
They'll go on social media and say
But I think that a lot
how
of people-
expensive everything is, how this and that. And the validation that they get is from other people that are also having a hard time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard out here. Hey, newsflash. It's always been fucking hard.
And it's hard for everybody.
Yes.
And
We just
especially
never
right
fucking
now.
talked about it. We're at a different we come from a generation where we couldn't get on the fucking phone and, hey, let me rant real quick and let me see how many fucking people will respond to my
But
shit.
you know who's not ranting about that? I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think that it's one of those things that makes it right necessarily, but you know who's not complaining about it? And again, I would love to live in a world of maybe this single mom out there taking care of her fucking kid that can't get on her phone and rant about how hard it is working 2 jobs. And yeah, that does suck, but maybe she's working towards her fucking degree. Or maybe she's going to be able to get that manager position at McDonald's in 6 months. I've watched motherfuckers hustle their asses off at Mickey D's to become, you know how much, whenever I worked at Taco Bell, you know how much their fucking general managers make a year?
I'm sure a lot.
$53,000 a year. That was 2017, 2016.
Okay.
You know how much a fucking general manager at Chick-fil-A makes? $74,000 a year.
Wow.
Right? Stick with the shit long enough. Have pride and go. It sucks. Obviously the circumstance is not ideal, but if you really just try to buckle down and fucking get through it, or just fucking quit and go find another job.
That's the key to that. Buckle down.
Buckle down. Fucking
Buckle down.
Yeah, shit does suck.
Yeah.
You might not get the newest iPhone. You still might be driving a fucking lemon of a car. Yeah. But don't pay attention to the fact that half the people that you're following on your Instagram are driving fucking Lamborghinis, Bugattis, and showing up to the gala and shit like that and expecting.
It's so geographical though, right? Because people who said they complain about a fucking $50,000 a year job or a $60,000 a year job,
right.
Where I'm like, hey, you know, I always hear this complaint about the rich, about the fucking rich. Yeah. I'm like, stop. Are you making more than $32,000?
$32,000. It puts you in the 1% of the world's population.
Of the world's population. Yep. If you can't fucking make it here, where are you gonna go?
Yep.
Yeah.
Where the fuck are you gonna go? Quit your complaining. Fucking buckle up. Yes, bitch. It fucking sucks.
Right.
No one's gonna say that. Hey, you're gonna work for the next 10 fucking years and do whatever you gotta do, and you're gonna have the fucking pie in the sky. Yeah. Right. It ain't gonna happen. I'm sorry.
It's the same thing with people. Like, okay, given like you might not have accessibility to mommy and daddy's money, you can still go get a loan, and loans are scary. Don't get me wrong, but if you're not able to make a minimum payment of like $200 a month towards a loan, go get out $10,000. You know, on a personal loan, you might have like a pretty decently higher interest rate, and go buy a van, convert it, or do what they do in New York. Whenever there's a bunch of people that are trying, or most places, I had some friends that lived in Austin a handful of years ago that are all musicians, and they were all trying to make it, and they all held down day jobs. But to afford to be able to live in Austin, they would get a two bedroom apartment for like $1,600 a month, which I'm sure is more astronomical now than it was back then.
Yeah.
But or a serving job or whatever the case may be, do something and have 6 people move in. Have 5 people move in. Have a couch and 2 futons. You're not going to have much private space, but you're going to be able to cut down your rent. You're going to be able to live where you want to. You're going to have homies to hang out with and probably crack a fucking cold beer at the end of the day with whatever money you make from your fucking shitty serving job. But if you want it that bad, do it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is if you want it that bad, and I get that it's tough. I cannot reiterate that enough. It fucking does suck.
Yes.
Whenever you fucking move to a new place and you're trying to figure out how to make money and shit like that, it does suck.
Yeah.
But
learn a fucking skill, something. You know, it kind of crazy because I do hear some of the people complain that I can't afford a house and I can't afford that, right? And I'm sitting there looking, I was like, how old are you? Oh, I'm 20 something.
But you're not expected to.
Yeah, you're not expected to. But I'm like, look at you. You work your ass off to get where you're at. Whether you learned your skill, you learned a fucking skill.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can actually afford this. You know, I mean, I don't want to put any names out, but you know one, you know? And it's like, you can afford it.
Yeah.
You sit there and I don't understand how you can like ask for this quality of outcome when you're literally the exception.
Well, it's the same thing.
You're the exception. You're making a fuck ton of money doing something that took a fucking skill for you to make.
Well, it's the same thing with like, if you have a $20 bill, you can look at it like I can buy one thing for $20 or I can buy a multitude of things that are much cheaper. And then you don't realize that it adds up to $20. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been a victim of it. But again, accessibility through these fucking things right here. You know, you have TikTok Shop, you have Insta Shop, you have this, and you're always having things thrown at you. You want to get the new fucking pair of Nikes. You want to get the new fucking jeans that are in style or whatever. And I get it. Like, if it helps you can create content, maybe you're able to have some sort of influence on the internet and you're able to make income that way. That's fine. But whenever I got rid of all of this and I stopped paying attention to like ads and this and that, and I still buy shit, don't get me wrong.
Comparison, like that's the other thing when you're talking about that, like, but people are looking at social media and comparison is a killer of motivation because they're looking at other people's, really you don't see the whole story there. They're just seeing like these pictures of whatever they're doing, you know, traveling, badass cars, nice places or whatever.
But also we're kind of guilty of it too, right? Because we have a podcast, we try to put stuff out, we want people to listen to it, but you know, we're in the same spec because that phone is the distraction.
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's the distraction.
I mean, I like throwing on a podcast whenever I'm driving to go to work because one of the biggest things that I've faced, especially semi-scrutiny from either clients or people that are around me, because I've had friends that have been like, well, I don't fucking make as much money as you. It's just like, yeah, but how often do you not see me work? And they're like, well, especially whenever I had social media, it's like, well, you'd be at shows on the weekends. I was like, yeah, I would drive 4 hours to make $150 cutting bands' hair, and they would let me hang out and drink their beer and hang outside stage. And I would either go find a place to crash or crash with them in their hotel because they'd let me because I'd come out and cut hair. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, I'm just a little bit, I'm just going to say it, I'm going to drop it. I'm a little bit fucking retarded. I'm an Alex Jones at first. Like, I'm a little bit
retarded, Joe.
But like, I don't think about certain outcomes to things whenever it's something that I really want to do.
Yeah.
Like, even back in the day.
No, but it is a bit freeing to be a little bit retarded.
Oh, dude, absolutely. Yeah. Back in the day, whenever I had no money and I was driving a beater ass car and I would see a concert that I wanted to go to and it was in Dallas or it was in Austin, I would save up. I would know that my gas tank to get me there and back was like $35.
Uh-huh.
So maybe I didn't eat a day, or maybe I would hold off on buying a pack of fucking cigarettes. I wouldn't eat. I would fucking put gas in my gas tank, and then I would drive to Dallas and then buy a $10 admission into a concert, smoke a fucking pack of cigarettes while I was there in between bands and hanging out with homies and shit like that. And then I would drive back, and I would get back at 2 or 3 in the morning, and then wake up the next day and then fucking go to work all over again. Yeah. And it would suck, but it was those minimal, those little releases. We were talking about it this morning at the shop. It's holiday time. Buckle down, and I get that people burn out, especially whenever you're not really like executing to the level of like you're really pushing your limits. But you know, everybody has their limits, and you have to constantly push past it, and that's how you understand capacity. But it's 8 weeks. It's 8 weeks till the end of the year. Buckle down, work 6 to 7 days a week if you want to, 5 to 7, whatever the case is. Make your fucking money, and then after the beginning of the year, after you have fucking a couple grand in your pocket or maybe more, and you have all your fucking bills paid and you're caught up and you're sitting on like a nice little nest of money, take a fucking week off.
Oh yeah.
Just go fuck off for a week, which is totally fine. You earned it. You did. I mean, there's people that I know that go take quarterly vacations because they can, because that's what they like to do.
Yeah. But those same people fucking grind it.
Yeah.
Grind it
and
before they go.
I fucking worked 3 years before I took 4 days off of work, and I still came back early. I was supposed to take off 5 or 6 days last May, and I came back early, and I just decided to take a client because I was just like, I don't know what to do fuck all with my free time now. If I didn't go to England for my birthday this year, I probably would have taken 7 days off and came back after 4 and been like, yeah, or if I went to Dallas or something like that, I would be like, well, I'm still going to take my clippers because I don't know if somebody's going to need a haircut. But it also gives me time to be able to associate with people or hang out and talk with people that I haven't seen in a while, and I can still make money while I'm doing it or whatever. And maybe that pays for lunch, but like, sometimes the off button's never really off unless you actually fucking turn it off. Yeah. And some people just can't turn their fucking phone off or just not respond to people, which, again, it is what it is. But handle your shit for the rest of this year. Take a week off of work and unwind. Maybe you don't have to go anywhere. Maybe you go somewhere a few hours away and you leave your phone on fucking airplane mode.
And what chances are you're probably going to have more fun if you don't go during these peak times of holidays anyways.
Right.
You know, you go on the fucking off times and there's nobody there. You get to enjoy the whole fucking thing without being so.
Yeah.
That's why I started taking my vacations. I'm like, I'm not going to go in the middle. I'm not going to go anywhere spring break.
Oh, fuck that.
Because I'm like, you've been to South Padre. I've been to fucking Port Aransas during spring break. You can't enjoy yourself.
No.
You're standing, I mean, you go to the fucking beach. There's fucking people everywhere. Then you go to a fucking restaurant. 45 to a fucking hour and a half minute wait just to fucking sit down anywhere.
Yeah.
How the fuck is that enjoyable? Go to off seasons. I go during the windy season. You know, sit there. You're not even waiting for right in to go fucking sit down. You get to enjoy the beach. You get to do everything.
You can drive right across that bridge, no problem. There's no
and the
line.
crazy part about it is the fucking prices are literally half price.
Oh yeah,
Right. Well, and also something I would like to, because I just thought about this. One thing I would like to address about this whole conversation, because we've kind of been on this tangent for about 30 minutes about work your fucking ass off, do your thing, is if it for some reason gets out there to somebody who's like, well, you guys are men and you're privileged and you have the ability to sit here and talk about it, but you don't understand what it's like to be our age. First of all, it varies. Every generation has their fucking problem. Mm-hmm. We are all very accomplished men, and we're still grinding every single day, because if you quit your fucking job tomorrow, if I quit my job, I'm not going to be able to make my truck payment. Your fucking family gets hungry. Your family will get hungry. You'll lose your fucking house, this or that. I mean, we just learn how to flow in the time and the spaces.
That's the argument that I will never fucking, I mean, there's nobody here who's going to sit there and tell me that shit, right? Because I'm like, I've literally given up the things that I've wanted to do in my life to make sure the bills are paid, everyone's fed, shit like that. Like I've had... Now, there was a time there that I did have a fucking rant, right? Where it's like, hey, you know what? I don't feel like doing this. I'm gonna try this other thing.
Right.
How fucking nice is that?
But I mean, that's cool. But also, I just want to make
Oh no, go ahead.
Make a quick point. If you have the accessibility, if you have the ability to complain about anything, you are also privileged.
Yes.
Because you're sitting on a fucking $1,000 phone that you've just listened to a podcast on a platform that you probably pay for. And no matter what your living situation is, you had that accessibility to be able to listen to this and develop your own and also speak your own opinion on what we're talking about. That in and of itself is a privilege, because there's places in this world where they don't have the phones that are also mined and created with slave labor. Yeah. Mind you. So next time
made by children with fucking nets outside the building.
There's places in the world where what you're watching and what you're listening to is controlled.
Exactly.
Like this podcast probably wouldn't fly.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
But that's the thing, is like, people need to understand micro privilege. Let me coin that term right now. You might see the majority of people where you think like the majority of people are just men that are controlling the world or whatever but you also have a privilege in being able to speak your mind because of where you're at in the world, who you are. You have, again, the accessibility to a phone or some sort of platform on which you're able to listen to this. If you need help with something, reach out. Reach out to somebody here. Reach out to me. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. I'll give you $100 and a fucking life lesson to just try to go out there and do your best.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? You say that because we've had people here in this podcast that say the exact same thing, where it's like, just reach out.
We want to help.
Yeah. Because
but nobody asks.
Nobody wants to ask.
Not even in the comments. Nothing.
But I get it too, though. You know, because it is kind of a fearful thing.
Yeah.
You know, where I'm going to go and ask you for something.
It's because
I don't
of
want to
humility.
Sound stupid.
It's because nobody wants to be like, oh, you know, I asked for help and I just felt like I was humiliated because, you know, now they have the leverage on me. Yeah. But a lot of that again stems from like maybe even home life. Like your parents help you out and then they make you feel like a piece of shit for helping you out.
Yeah.
And we need to quit with that bullshit.
Shit, that's no shit.
I just talked to somebody the other day about how I have a problem with like receiving gifts, because whenever I was growing up, if I had a discrepancy with my mom or whatever, it's kind of like Indian givers. Whatever, that's the old term, whatever. It's whenever you give somebody something and then they take it back, whether it's because they think that it'll benefit themselves or you have like a disagreement or whatever. Mm-hmm. And even, again, with like a car. Like, I mean, I know that you had the Tahoe incidents or whatever, but rightfully so with that circumstance. But my mom would always, sorry, Mom, if you're hearing this and whatever, but I do clearly remember this, so we're just going to talk about it real quick. because I'm tired of people throwing their parents under the bus. I mean, she and I have a good relationship now, but at that point in time, it's like, I bought you those shoes, so those are my shoes or whatever. We have this discrepancy. Well, those are mine, so I'm going to take them back. And it's just like, okay, we'll take them. If you're not realizing that you're conditioning your kids and you don't look at your kids as someday growing up to be fucking adults, humanizing children to the extent of being like, these people are someday going to be the people that probably put you in a fucking home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, they wonder why, why people have a distant relationship with their kids or their parents or whatever the case may be. It's like, there are instances of tough love, but also there are times whenever you're just being a fucking dick.
Yeah. Well, they're getting their kids, used to love with conditions.
Well, but I don't want to fucking take that out. There are also times where there is love with conditions, but if there's not a mean to the end and there's a lesson to be learned, sometimes you're just being a controlling dick, kind of like the Ted Cruz thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you're just testing your boundaries because you say I say so, and that doesn't dictate your ability to be like, oh well, I can make these rules just because I'm the one in charge. I mean, no wonder you become a little bit rebellious in your teenage years because you're kind of tired of being like. I've never met a parent who it's the gentle parenting thing versus the traditional parenting thing where it's just like I'm gonna crack down and be like the whole what is it? Back of hand is discipline, front hand is abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then opposite side of that is gentle parenting, where it's like your child is being clearly defiant, but because you've never set up any sort of authoritative or parental structure, they think that you're equals, and you're just going to get walked all over.
Oh, yeah.
If you come at it from, I guess, the standpoint, and everybody is obviously able to look at this in retrospect, but because I've worked around kids and with adults and mediate generations to a certain extent, as some people have said, even working events where I see how parents interact with their kids and to some degree treat their kids as if they're a nuisance, like that fucks with the psychology of a kid.
Yeah.
They might not remember it 10 years from now, but that's going to process and develop. That's going to create the way that they develop. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
There's a certain psychology that goes in. The same thing with everybody. You might not remember something that happened to you whenever you were a kid, but in that very moment, that dictated your very next decision. Mm-hmm. And because of that, whenever it comes down to, like, I don't want you to go out and hang out with your friends on a Friday night because I'm afraid of you making bad decisions. I don't want you to go do that because you have chores tomorrow and I'm really expecting you to come through for me.
Yeah.
And it's not because I think that you're going to make bad decisions. It's because I need you here for me. And that teaches responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for you to just say no because I said no only teaches them like, well, fuck them.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from, but I think it's also like a cultural thing because I can't relate to that because it was like I don't know about you, but I know with me, if I fucked up, I got my ass whooped, and that was it. It's like, hey, you got, but there wasn't no conditions with it. It was like, well, you can't go because of this, you can't do whatever, like what you're talking about. But it was just straight up, you fuck up, I smack you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And that's like, oh, okay, that's a boundary. You don't cross that boundary. Yeah. But there was never any. God, that shit got hot.
You got that pepper. Yeah.
You hit the back of the throat. Yeah, but it was never nothing like that. It was like, okay, well, because I'm the parent, I get to do this. Yeah. It was more of the, hey, you fucking up. Let me straighten you out real quick, and then I'm gonna let you on your way.
Yeah.
But I will never go back to doing that.
Well, yeah, but I think that's another thing with there was Chris DiStefano was talking about the first time he ever called his mom a bitch.
Oh fuck!
And
no.
Oh, dude, yeah, you can imagine, right?
Oh yeah, no, I couldn't.
So like,
ass kicked real fast.
Oh yeah.
So it is obviously a butchered story, and I mean, I don't know the guy personally, but from what I had heard was like, his dad came home one day after hearing that he called his mom a bitch, and he was just like, "Hey, come on, we're gonna go down and go get a beer." He's just like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like, I can't go get a beer." Like, I mean, obviously he's not cursing at his dad, but he was like, I can't go drink. He was like, well, you called your mother a bitch. I mean, you're a grown man now. You can go have a beer with me. We can go sit and shoot the shit down at the bar and go pull up a bar stool and go get a beer. And he was just like, what are you talking about, Dad? I can't go get a beer. Like, I'm 16. Like, and he was just like, well, you're a man now. Like, you can call your mother a bitch. And he was just like, well, I didn't mean, I'm sorry. And he just pops him. and he said he hit him and he grabbed him and he loved him. He said, I love you. Don't ever make me do that again. If you ever call your mother a bitch again, we're going to fucking throw hands.
Yeah.
So the condition, I think that even with how you, because there's obviously that fine line too, and I can't speak on how you grew up, but it sounds like to that extent that like you got disciplined, but it never got held over your head. And then, because I know at least in Hispanic families, like they will always love their kids, right? Yes. So like you got popped and then you got the, I love you, but it was never
you move on from it.
Yeah. It was never, but for some people it was the over dragging. It was.
Can I say something? God damn it, shit's fucking me up.
Maybe it's the tequila that. Oh, I got a leg cramp. Oh shit.
I can only relate this to a single word that comes from
domestic violence.
Not really domestic violence, more like a cultural.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, and I don't mean to make this sound any offensive, any way offensive to anybody, but where it's like, oh, those are white problems.
Yeah, no, those are absolutely white problems.
Yeah.
No, that is a real thing.
You know, because that's what my parents would say. It's like, I'm going to love you conditionally, but you got it straight. But it's like, oh, like the whole, Dad, I don't like the way you talk to me made me feel. You know, that shit would never fly. Because it's like, look, stop.
Yeah.
Right. This is not an exchange with me and you.
Yeah.
You fuck up. I let you know you fuck up.
Right.
And that's it.
This is probably definitely, I mean, like I was also raised by, again, respectfully, and I'm going to air her shit out. And I don't mean to, but like, you know, growing up, and I've talked about this pretty openly anyways, but like I grew up and my mom at that time drank a lot. And so, and then my little brother had his dad, and his dad had gone to prison for drug abuse and so on and so forth. My mom obviously didn't have a very good life, carried that over a lot. But yeah, it's absolutely, it was definitely like the running thing with whenever I'd go over to my white friend's house and they're yelling at their mom, and like you're like, well, like you're just kind of waiting for that immediate response because you never really yell at your mom in a Hispanic or a black household. But again, with the gentle parenting thing, like you're trying to be equals with your kids. You
can't do that. Yeah.
You can't do that. No, and I agree with that completely. But it was definitely one of those things where whenever we were younger, our mom drank a lot and she stepped over some boundaries. Even in the sense that like the open hand versus backhand kind of thing.
So let me ask you this: how old was your mother when all this was happening? Because I could also. I'm not airing out my mom's age on that. Oh no, okay.
Yeah, but
no,
like,
you're fine. Because
probably in her, I think her 40s.
Okay, because
she had me at 33.
Yeah. Okay, this is the relation that I get from that, right? Where you are, it's like you're 4 kids in. Like I'm 4 kids in. I'm way lenient on, like I'm too old to be smacking you the way I used to do with your older brothers. At this point, I'm just like, look, it's easier for me to try to relate to you than to punish you. Because I like my brothers, there's 5 of us. Right. Me, the 3 oldest ones, but we got our asses fucking whooped. The youngest one does whatever. He's got that fucking attitude, right? But it's like, well, at that point, by the time he had to discipline you, he was already tired of us.
Yeah.
He was to the point where he's like, I can't beat you I used to beat your older brothers.
And not only that, it wasn't actually working. I mean, he was beating you, but y'all were still fucking doing whatever the fuck y'all were doing.
It worked to a point.
Right.
But at that point, it was like, he's so exhausted. He's like, because he told us he's like, I'm exhausted. I can't continue to keep doing this with you guys.
Yeah.
He's like, I was younger. I was sprout when I had to discipline y'all. Now it's like, I got other shit to worry about. I got a business to run. I got other shit, so it was more of a, I'm not going to hit you. I'm going to relate to you.
Well, I think too, there's we can deep dive into it, but so I even see this a lot now with kids and their parents is like one, and this is a cultural thing, I think also in just like West Texas and like, I mean, disrespect to the point of like conditional love. Let's talk about it. So I've realized that there is this machoism behind a lot of men in West Texas.
Oh yeah. That's
like, I'm going to work 159 million hours in a week so I can provide for my fucking family. You don't understand nothing, sissy boy.
Sissy boy.
You cut hair for a living, sissy boy. But it's just like, whether it's a single mother or a mother that's having to take care of her kids on her own because dad is always fucking gone, there's a very, and I mean, I know you guys know this from either experience raising your own kids or just growing up. There is a very distinct attitude difference between how kids act with their mom alone versus with dad alone.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Like that's just a fucking thing. And so I see this all the time. And now, granted, my mom was a single mom. I'm put in a situation where her relationships hadn't worked out at that point and whatever. And maybe we were, I mean, I can definitely, in retrospect, look back and be like, we were kind of shitheads. But my dad only ever spanked me like twice until me and him got into a fist fight whenever I was 16. But then again, with my mom, there was an incident whenever I was probably 12 or 13 where she kind of had gone off on her own little weekend thing. And my little brother was I don't know what exchange happened between them, but I remember hearing my little brother crying from the living room. And I came in, and she was on top of him on the ottoman, just fucking going to town on him. Mm-hmm. And I had to pull her off. And like, he's fucking just breaking down, bawling. Like, I mean, this is a kid, right? Yeah. Goes to his room. Like, I'm like, go to your room. Like, as a 12, 13-year-old kid. And she says to me, well, you're going to be fucking next. And I said, I'm not afraid of you. You fucking try it. I mean, she's a little lady, but I mean, at this point, I'm not that much. I'm also not, as a grown man, I'm 5'7".
Yeah.
But at this point, we're probably eye to eye. And I was like, I'm not afraid of you. You can try, but it's not going to go over the same way they did with him. And with that being said, it was just like there were the different dynamics in our childhood that kind of developed. And so I take that into perspective now as an adult because it really freeformed how I developed, and then what kind of caused me to have issues later on in my life, whether it be with women or with authority and this and that. But I can also, from that perspective, say like there are definitely ways you go about raising kids, and there's definitely ways that you don't. I personally know all of y'all's kids. Like, you all have great kids.
Thank you. I try.
Yeah. But then there's times whenever I see how parents interact with kids, and I'm like, that borderline trips that fucking like little 13-year-old in me that had to stand up to his mom, or that 16-year-old in me that had to stand up to his dad because there was a line crossed.
Yeah.
And to the effect of like loving and discipline with the condition, kind of going back to that, it's like there is that line where you might get popped, but then you give them a hug and say, I love you. Yeah. Like, don't. Or maybe the unspoken love of like, just don't do it again. You know what I mean? Like, because you spank a kid up until a certain age where you're like, you fucking know better. Yeah. But because eventually it turns into like, you know better as an adult, and then you do some stupid shit, and then you get arrested for it. And then your parents might be there to bail you out or help you out or whatever the case may be. But it's like, I know you better than this. This is your get out of jail free card, quite literally. And then you, as an adult, have the responsibility to take action for yourself and be like, okay, I've learned my lesson. I need to fucking like really reflect on it, and then kind of develop from there.
Yeah.
But then there's the time whenever it's just like it goes too fucking far, and then that will permanently fuck up the psyche of then developing and soon to be an adult, and then that's what people send out into society.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that can be mitigated with the fact that if some people just took the time to self-reflect.
Yeah,
because and they don't. They just think that I'm right, and these are parents, right? I'm right. The kids they're my kids, so they're my property. Right. You know what I mean? And they totally leave out the fact that, hey, stop. Did you hit him too hard?
Yeah.
Did you bitch him out too hard? Yeah. Because I do. But then again, that also goes down to the fucking person. I was like, I guess in the aspect of what you would call it morality, that, hey, what you're doing, what you just did wasn't right.
Right. But I think there's also that level of humility where people don't want to self-reflect and be like, maybe I did take that a little too far, but they don't want to admit that because they're afraid that makes them look like a bitch. Yeah. Like, just call it for what it is. Yeah. Like, you don't want to look like a bitch to your kid, or you don't want to look like you maybe getting walked over. Yeah. But you're setting that line now because you're just like, you already fucking know that hell's going to come down on your ass if you do that again.
And that's not right, man, because you're right. And it also goes back to the point of this machismo shit that a lot of these guys have. I'm like, look, that's your son.
Yeah.
You know, you should be able to stop and reflect. And if you did go too far, go tell them you went too far. Hey, I'm sorry. You know, but
because that fucks up your relationship with your kid later on
Exactly.
in the long run. And then you stop viewing your parent as your parent, but you view them as a dictator that you're living
Yes.
underneath. And then you're just like, well, I can't. And then that builds resentment.
yes.
And you know, even I was listening to Shia LaBeouf's interview with I can't remember.
Is the Punisher guy?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
God, dude, that's such.
It's
that broke me down.
everybody listening to this. If you have not listened to Shia LaBeouf's interview on Real Ones, go listen to it. It's a tough listen, but there's a lot of self acknowledgement, and this obviously all came after his allegations and really terrible shit. This was also several years ago, and like a lot of this has kind of gone through the court systems or the systems in which it may had, and he's done a lot of self-reflecting, and I do believe that there's a lot of redemption, especially, and it's not the Christian card. It's not I'm converting, but it does seem like there's been a lot of self-reflection.
Yes.
Because it was never mitigated to the point where somebody, again, checked him before he got too far. Because whenever you dictate and you don't take accountability or have awareness for yourself in your circle, if you can't have somebody that's going to be the friend that conflicts you whenever you need to be checked, you need better fucking friends.
Exactly.
Because if you only have yes men around you, that's misery loves company shit, and that's how people end up being
Fuck yeah.
barflies their whole fucking lives. Because people obviously want you to be there having a bag with them on a fucking Friday night. And again, it's not a shame towards anybody. I still have a lot of friends that go out and party, and like I'm 5 days sober now, and you know, to that point, even up until I left to England, I was, you know, pretty good about reeling it in and not going out on the weekdays and so on and so forth, and very, very like try to be as very chill, be center focused with my faith and listening to sermons and trying to reflect as much as possible. I'd still go out on the weekends here and there and go have a few drinks, but I was pretty locked in at that point. And then I went over to England, and I appreciated the fact that I was able to go out and go have a few pints at the end of the night and go back to my apartment that I was staying at. And I was able to just unwind and appreciate a social life without being enveloped into it.
Yeah.
That's also a part of vacation. I didn't realize I did not distinguish the two at the time. So I came back over here and I started making an exception that I'd be able to go out on a Wednesday night, go hang out with some friends and shoot the shit. And that in and of itself kind of became a more or less like a mini spiral where I was starting to drink a lot more, and then I started shirking off my not necessarily responsibilities. I was still showing up to work, but I wasn't doing things that I was once doing for myself. I slacked on going to the gym. I really wasn't putting in much effort to my diet.
Well, it's so easy to divert, isn't
Oh,
it?
it's so, and you're aware of it because you've already been down that path one time. But I was making excuses, and then it kind of just hit me after Halloween. I was like, I'm so tired. And so what is the one thing that I can change? It's not the gym because I'm not going to the fucking gym. It's not going to work because I need to work to make money. It's I need to fucking reel back going out and drinking, and my social life needs to chill, because if I don't get that under control, then I'm not going to be worth a fuck to anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a worth a fuck to Amy at the shop. I'm not going to be a fuck worth to my clients, my friends that need me, the band that I'm working for, all of the different things, even like just spiritual representation to Christ. Like I'm not a proper representation of who I'm supposed to be in my faith.
But who's to say what that is, though? Everyone follows that path.
I think that can be mitigated because surely, right, like you're not called to be like perfect. You're not supposed to be this hoity-toity, holy roller dictating other people's lives based on what but as a personal reflection of like knowing where I'm at, I know that I don't need to be out 4 nights out of the week, and then because
Yeah, but you're aware of that. You're self-aware
yeah,
of that. Yeah.
because I've been down that path. And I also know that there's great examples and many sermons that I've listened to, and it's just like people will look to you and say, well, what is your faith if you're still out here doing the exact same thing that I'm doing? If you're living for something else, then what makes that so much better if you're still out here doing the same shit that I'm doing every single night, whether that's getting into a bag or fucking drinking until you fucking can't walk straight or getting cut off at the bar or whatever. And thankfully it didn't really get to that point.
I think that's just the way some people just to pick apart what you're doing.
Right. But
because you got to, like to say the apostles, right? They were drunks. They were fucking.
Well, but the same thing with the woman at the well, whenever Christ came and talked to her and said, I know you.
Yeah.
And now, go and sin no more. I'm not saying you can't go out and have a drink. I just know right now in my 5 days that I don't need to be, like even today, like what we talked about is like, I didn't want to drink tonight because I knew that tomorrow I'm going to try to get up and go to the gym like I have been doing, and I feel really good. Cognitively, I'm very clear. I'm very aware of what's going on. I'm able to show up every single day. I can work efficiently throughout the day without having a hangover. I'm not really wasting any days now or any hour out of the day by feeling like a piece of shit because I'm just like, oh, God, I'm hungover, I'm tired. Now, it might be a very temporary thing where, by Thanksgiving, I might want to have a few glasses of wine or a few whiskeys with my family whenever I see them. And then the day after, I'm taking off.
Yeah.
I'm already going to be off work, and I'm not really going to be, I don't work out on the weekends.
Okay.
I still discipline myself to be like, I don't have to, I'm not going to identify with this. I can still have a life. I can still have a personality. But I'm not going to make that excuse for myself where I'm going to, I very easily could tear through the Coors Light that you have in the fridge real fucking quick. And we could be sitting here shooting shots and we could get off on some bullshit and we can start talking about some crazy shit and we get buck fucking wild.
Yeah.
It could happen that quick. I mean, it's very much an on switch. When the switch is on, I fucking go. And then my brother bartends down the road, and whenever I leave here, I could stop by there and go get even more fucked off. And before I know it, it's 3 a.m. And then I'm laying in bed, and I'm like, fuck, I got to be awake. Yeah. I'm not going to fucking wake up at 6 o'clock to go work out. I'm just going to sleep until my alarm goes or until I wake up, and then I have 45 minutes to get to work.
So I've known, like I said, this is probably the longest conversation we've ever had.
Right.
So I've known of you. I really don't. There's a reason why I don't like fraternize much with people, especially like in the business standpoint,
Right.
Because it always seems to go south sometimes, and that not all the time, but sometimes it's just like, sometimes you feel like there was a bound that was overstepped, right? So, but I guess I lost my fucking train of thought there. This tequila's good. But, and you were talking about your religion. Okay, but I know where I was getting at. When did this transition for you to this? I mean, I guess you're more religious now, obviously. But when I first met you, you were I remember the drinking. I remember the veganism.
Yeah.
You did that for a good stint.
Yeah, I was vegan for 10 years. Yeah.
Before you answer that real quick, like I can relate to a lot of what you're saying because I went through this weird point in my life too where I was daily in the fucking bar, like daily. And I don't even know how the hell I was able to get up and go to work the next day. Yeah. Or even, especially on the rig. Hell, we go and party all the fucking night long till 3 a.m. Have to be dressed up, ready to go by 5 a.m.
You're sweating out all the alcohol.
Fuck yeah, bro. Like I remember the tool pusher walking into the chain shack, and he was like, "Holy fuck, y'all leave the door open in here, Jesus Christ!" Yeah. He was like, "If the safety man shows up, y'all just take off running into the field because
y'all smell too bad."
Yeah, oh yeah. So it was like. I did that for so many fucking years. And even after prison, because I got out of prison when I was 28. And then I started working on the rigs. So it's like I still didn't fucking learn my lesson. You know what I mean? So I was still going to that. But I distinctly remember when I started changing things, I was like, something needs to change. Yeah. Like something needs to change. Part of it was when I got custody of Kristen. And then not too long after that, I started going to church. And then I just stopped drinking. Like I just... cold turkey, just stopped going out, stop drinking, nothing, just stop. And then I would go to church and I would change the music I was listening to. Like I would just, I changed like
that. That's a big one,
big time. Like it just totally, it was like a reset for me. Yeah. Like now I can have a drink or two, or we can just keep going. But a lot of times I'll just stop because I'm like, I'm good. Like I don't want to keep drinking. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. But it was like this transition of your lifestyle change. And it has a lot to do with like, I feel like
your environment,
your environment. But I think it changes your thinking, especially with going. You gave your life to Christ, right?
Right.
So that's a big step, and I think that changes your psyche.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now your focus is different. And it was the same for me too, and it was just like.
So I guess I would, with leading that, I guess segue into that. Is it that transition? When did it? What caused it to happen? Why did it happen? Because I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah.
I'm not a religious person. I'm not at all.
Yeah.
Do I believe in a creator? Yes, absolutely. I think there's like there's something a lot bigger, than us. Something that's I guess what's it called, pointing the course to all this shit.
Right.
So I've never been one to go to church. Now I don't knock it. Hey, if that's where you find your calling, that's where you find your calling. And I was just because I'm real curious. I see, I hear people, hey, I gave myself to Christ and stuff like that, and they like do a whole 180 on their life, you know. And I'm like, what was it? What was it? Did you hear? What was it that? Because I feel like some people actually wonder that, because I did for the longest time until I heard, I got the whatever you want, the presence, I guess you could say, where it's like, oh, there's undeniable fact, you know, and it wasn't through a church, it wasn't through any of that, So I don't find myself there. Now, some people do, which is fucking great, man, because there's a community and people that you can actually go and listen to. So that, I guess, just to say that, because I'm sure people want it, but I feel like some people just so easily look past it. They're just like, oh, that was just coincidence, or that was this, or that was that. Like, what was where it's like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna follow this path.
Well, I mean, as of not necessarily recent, I guess. So there's been multiple factors in my life. So I guess growing up, my dad was, I can't really say I was brought up in a faith-based household. They would my dad would probably scorn me for that for a little bit, but mainly I remember one time we were praying for work because my dad was a GC whenever we were a kid, and he wound up getting this big, like, almost like 8-month job that paid the bills, and he got ahead, and it was good for us. But kind of the same reason why a lot of people separate from religion in general and faith is because nobody really explains it, right? So they're very hard pressed on following these hard set rules and never really, and this also kind of comes down to leaders and pastors and things of that nature that don't, it's easy for somebody, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, it's easier for somebody to say, like, you need to do this without the why.
Yes.
Right? So it kind of turns into, you're not really giving me a reason why I need to really abide by anything. So, and the relationship that I had with my parents and my mom and what kind of led me down this really stark, dark road for a long time of like living for myself and seeking validation through women. And whenever I was younger, I got addicted to porn, and I was addicted to porn for a really long time, and that fucked my brain really bad. And I think that's a generational problem that has created a massive amount of abuse and validity issues with women and abuse through men and things of that nature. And it's really just bad. It's just all around bad. Mm-hmm. My world fucking crumbled. I eventually wound up having to look myself in the fucking mirror and be like, you always told yourself you were never going to be like this, but I always was seeking validation for myself and trying to admittedly give myself, I guess, a reason, kind of like I was living. I didn't have any, I'm trying to think about how I want to phrase this. I didn't have any checks. I didn't have anybody to check me on what I was doing. I had a lot of validation for, how I was acting. And of course I was watching like a lot of pornography at the time and so on and so forth. And I just wound up divulging way too much into self. So I was very, what can I do that's going to only benefit me? And because I didn't have money. I didn't have a lot of resources. I didn't have a very great relationship with my family. I didn't have really any friends. I spent a lot of time online. So a lot of what we talked about tonight is direct from my own experience.
Yeah.
Like you getting nothing but sort of admiration from like this thing really kind of just feeds the ego. And
yeah, it definitely does.
It's bad. So there's that. But also it came down to that aspect. And so whenever I finally decided like, okay, I have to be submissive. Like I fucking, they phrased it was in that interview whenever it's like rock bottom isn't whenever you hit bottom. Rock bottom's whenever you hit rock bottom and you have no wiggle room. Yeah. You have nothing.
Yeah.
You have nobody, you have nothing. There is no if, ands, or buts about the situation. You are fucked.
Yeah.
You're royally fucked. And the phrasing was doomed. And I think that's something that we overlook because of like the video game or Dr. Doom or whatever. It's it's such a cartoonish word, right?
Yeah. But that whole concept too, though, because I guess some people interpret it. I interpret it as when you hit rock bottom, right?
Right.
And you realize no one's coming.
Yeah.
You realize you pick your hand up, yell for help. No one's coming.
Yeah.
No one's gonna pick you up.
Everybody's tired of your shit already.
Yeah, everyone's tired of your shit. Now I never really had that. When I say rock bottom, I never went rock bottom. But where's the point? It's like, oh, no one's here to.
No, yeah,
no one's here to help me.
Well, it's the same thing with like addiction. That's the same thing with any addiction too. It's just like, you start. I've witnessed so many people, and this is also probably a correlating fact, is from what I've especially seen as of recent, and one of the reasons why I chose to try to be a little bit sober for the past 5 days. Even going through the weekends, I've gone weekends without drinking. I've gone weekends without partying. I've done all that. But I've had these like little points in my life where I've kind of like, maybe it is like God's hand on my shoulder being like, all right, we're going to go ahead and stop you right here. We're going to like, and it's never gotten, at least in the past few years, it hasn't been like to the point where, you're stealing money from people that for fucking drugs. You're not trying to hustle people out of shit. But that self-awareness, and I developed self-awareness at a really young age for whatever fucking weird reason. But there had been moments in time where I would be sitting in a bar and then I would realize that, like, kind of like what you were saying, I was like, I'd be sitting there alone. I'd be the lone guy at the table looking at everybody else, looking at people being like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, I could be at home sleeping.
Yeah.
And it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm 15 beers deep and a few shots, and the only fucking person that's talking to me is the bartender. And like the bartender can chop it up with you to kind of kill a little bit of time in between taking beers to other tables or whatever. Or, I think the less time you spend on this thing, the more you realize, especially not having social media, you're not doom scrolling. And before you know it, you look up and you're fucking 6-7 beers deep and you're just like, ooh, this sounds good. Let me go ahead and like text the plug and shit and be able to like, and then whenever your friends become drug dealers, that becomes a problem. Because they're not really, I mean, I've had my moments where I've been able to sit there and, I mean, in all transparency, be able to crush lines with people and dealers and shit like that, and be like, you know what the fuck are we doing? Like, maybe we should get out of this. Yeah. And the time, it sounds really good because it almost feels like those moments of self-awareness are like God kind of like perching on your shoulder, being like, okay, this is not where you need to be. But then the next week you see the same person doing the same thing, and then you're not, because you decided to kind of withhold from it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, like, okay, this is just kind of a repeated cycle.
Yeah.
This is the same thing over and over again. And no disrespect, I've already gone down the whole road of resentment towards this town and not bad-mouthing anybody, but like this town does have a thing where the culture, again, with the machoism and all that, is like you get off work, you crush a few beers, and you stay at home, but you're not really spending time with your family. You don't really ever go check on your parents or whatever, but you get home, and instead of going to sleep so you could be the most productive person you can be the next day, or be worth something to somebody at the bar, or be something for somebody in case they call you or whatever. I've missed phone calls from people that are having like fucking full-on breakdowns and shit like that. And, you know, you just want to be more of a help to people, and you can't really be there if you're at the bar and like loud music's playing and you're, you know, crushing beers while, you know, you're not paying attention to your phone because it's face down and you have it on silent or whatever the case may be. And
but in some of those moments too, though, you know, like I've come to the opinion that, you know, there's just some people that you just have to outgrow.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely.
You just like, I can't pick up this phone. I can't. I know. I understand you're calling because you need something. Because that's what it seems like. You always call when you need something.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, just in moments of like depravity where people might actually be going through something hard.
Yeah. But how many times?
But like,
how many of those times are they? I mean, how many of those times are they going through hard shit? You know what I mean? Is it like a regular occurrence where it's like,
right?
Look,
No, but like,
I just can't
but
keep doing this for
But what
myself.
he's saying though, is
But
that
on
he's
the-
saying is that he's wouldn't be no help to them if they actually are going through some shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
regardless if they were calling you because they wanted something from you. But if they were literally going through some shit, he probably wouldn't have been no good to them because he was
drunk
for one
or
drunk in the
coked
bar,
out or whatever the fuck.
whatever.
Yeah.
He would have been no good to him.
This is so I have a client that came in earlier, and we were his wife was calling him, and he was just like, you know, she's calling me a lot today, and it's kind of weird. You know, I don't know what's going on, but whatever. He was answering the phone call. Well, he left, and then I was like, yo, man, don't forget, you know, cash out me money, whatever, pay me for the haircut. And he was like, yo, I didn't forget you. My kid ended up at the ER for having breathing problems. And I was like, oh, that's why she was calling you. He was like, actually, that's kind of why I was stressing about not calling me so much, because I don't know if you actually need something. So every time you called or texted me or whatever, I didn't know if there was something wrong, because as a new parent, you're probably already on edge anyways, kind of, you know what I mean? So like, you're always on high alert. And so whenever it desensitizes, because you're just always getting like hit up. And so even to that, and I remember, again, I've listened to like a lot of podcasts, and even whenever I decided that I was going to get healthy, and really kind of what's funny is a few years ago, whenever I decided to actually start going to the gym and working out and whatnot, it was more so for validity. I thought girls at the gym were way hotter than dudes or girls at, you know, the bar or whatever. Cause like, you take a little bit better care of yourself. And the only way you can get a girl that you find attractive that's like a gym girl is by going to the gym. And so, instead of going out with the dudes on like a Friday night, I wanted to go to the gym. Mm-hmm. And then if I could go to the bar afterwards, then I'd go home, shower or whatever. And I've tried to balance the two things for a while. And then I realized that I started feeling much better going to the gym and trying to get my head straight and not go to the bar. And money, because, you know, you go when you're accustomed to going to the bar 4 or 5 times a week, and you're like, fuck.
Shit gets expensive.
Yeah, well, but you don't realize it, because like what you were talking about earlier, whenever you said like, you know, you didn't realize how you did it. Most of the time you wake up in a haze and you don't really remember the first part of the day, because nothing's really kicked in until you had lunch and you might have had some afternoon caffeine. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh, you're cognitive. But then at that point you're like, oh, I just want to go meet up with my friends. It really wasn't that bad, because you forget that the hangover sucks because you're in such that cycle.
Yeah.
And so after kind of doing that for a while, I realized that I was actually saving money, because like a gym membership is $15 a month. A bar tab can be $150 a night.
Yeah.
Easy.
Easy. And they fucking you start divulging into the extracurriculars, and that's just another extra couple $100. But so I realized I was saving money doing that. And then I remember thinking, well, if I can go to the gym and I can also go out and party, then I'm like living a balanced lifestyle. But it's not balanced because
You're fooling yourself.
Well, it's contradictory. It's not. It doesn't complement one another, right? Like eating a balanced diet and going to the gym is a balanced lifestyle. Like it's a good thing.
Yeah. You don't think maybe it was some kind of like justification? Hey, if I just go work out a little bit, you know.
Oh no, and it absolutely was for the longest time.
Yeah.
But so I was like, well, working out makes me feel a lot better than going out and drinking does. So I want to stick with this. Like, it's a process of elimination in the dumbest fucking way possible. Like, let me go explore every option and figure out what I want to do with myself. So I started doing that, and then I started gearing off, and I tried to like really convince other people to like go to the gym or stick with going to the gym or stick doing, because there's been stints where I've done like a month or two of sobriety. Like I said, this might not last forever, but for right now, I need to reel myself back in.
Yeah.
I obviously, Christmas is coming up, and I'm not trying to. I mean, I realize, going out to the bar 3 nights a week is still $300-$400, and you can buy Christmas gifts with that. So, like, why would I want to do that? Like, prioritize some shit. So it kind of really started with that a few years ago, and then it kind of matured into, well, I realize that if I'm trying to take uppers, or if I'm constantly exhausted from going to the gym and then going to work, and then I'm going out at night. And a few summers ago, like, summer would always get the best of me because it was like, oh, everybody's like free. You can go party, you can go hang out. And then you forget that you're getting older. It's kind of like whenever you realize when you wake up one day and you're like, God damn, this fucking hangover hit a lot different than it did 4 years ago. Wow, that was 4 years ago. Yeah. And the way that I kind of saw it was like, well, I'd rather notice it like 4 years down the line versus 40 years down the line kind of thing. So I kept that mentality. But also it came down to, my mental health. I'm fucking manic, which a few years ago after I had hit rock bottom and I gave myself to faith, I started going to therapy. And I was just like, and I have enough self-awareness to work through my problems, which is what my therapist had told me. And I just asked him, I was like, if you had to diagnose me with anything, I've just always been curious because my parents were like old school. I got ran over whenever I was a kid. My dad was just like, go set it off in a hot shower.
Yeah.
So like, mental shit was just not even in the question. So I just got curious and I was like, if you had to diagnose me with something, what would it be? Like, just out of curiosity. And he's like, well, I'm not a psychiatrist, so I can't legally diagnose you with anything, but you're high functioning with major anxiety and major depressive disorder. And at that point, I knew that there was elements in my life at that point that I had to change. Now we're talking about, like, I was listening to a lot of really sad music. I was still extremely addicted to pornography. I was trying to cope with a really bad breakup at that point in time. I had a really, really aggressive addiction to opiates. So at one point in time, I was cranking out, like whenever the salon had first opened, I was cranking out probably like 4 hydrocodeines a day.
Damn.
I was not eating at all, like, because you can't eat because it makes you constipated. Yeah. So, but because I had become so frail and weak in my body, because probably the vegan diet, but also because I was depressed, I was stressed all the time. My hair was kind of like falling out. I had a problem for a long time where I would get super stressed out and I would start coughing up blood. I was eating pain pills just to survive the day. And then I was drinking not even fucking like whiskey. I was drinking fucking Kratom mixed with Everclear just to be able to go to sleep at night.
Damn. Like
real fucked up. And then I was also extremely suicidal and I'd tried killing myself multiple times and so on and so forth. But I knew that. So if I allowed my mentality to get the better of me, I was like, I can't fucking go back to this. So I started the process of cutting everything out again. And then I really started functioning in where I was like starting to draw my boundaries and my lines and shit like that. And I remember just always through these processes, like praying, because whenever I'd get really manic or like at the end of the night, whenever my anxiety would be super high, because, you leave like these really, really, high stimulated areas, like going to the bar and party music and everybody's around you and you're fucking coked out of your mind and you're just living. And then all that party comes to the end because you have to go to bed at the end of the night because you still have work the next day, because this was like a Tuesday for me.
Yeah.
And I would go back home and I would just lay in fucking bed in sweat. And I would have to I didn't know what else to do except for pray and put on worship music because it's the only thing that could calm me down. And I would only sleep for like 3 hours a night. And so I just kind of started getting more in depth with my faith. And then at one point in time, I really stressed myself out by trying to go to every Bible study, because I was under this misconception of like, if I don't go to Bible study, or if I miss church, then God's going to be mad at me, kind of thing. Yeah. And then I eventually had to work past that. But there was a lot of really mental shit that was fucked in my head. And again, with the diet stuff, and then the coke, and then the drinking all the time, and stress, and working through like my validity problems with women, and so on and so forth. And it kind of just brought me to this point where, you know, I was really, and I mean, shout out to my ex-girlfriend, who I still talk to, and see very frequently. But whenever I met her, she would go out with us. Like, I was our second date like 2 years ago. And I mean, I was fucking like doing bumps in front of her and shit. And I was just like, bless her sweet heart for putting up with this bullshit, because she was the sweet kind of girl that would go to bed early. And like, this is like full disclosure on shit too, because like, there's a lot of people that have heard this story, but for whatever reason, if her coworkers or a lot of people hear this, and it is what it is. I've been a fucking on and off again mess that I've tried to hold together. And eventually you realize that people see through the bullshit. Mm-hmm. And they definitely know when you're fucked off, but nobody really says anything because they're almost afraid to confront you, because they don't know how you're going to react, what you're going to do, or anything like that, or like if you're going to try to brush it off or lie. So I was kind of thankful in that sense. But I remember at one point just being like, you know, she stays out with me on the weekdays till about 11 or 12, and she still has to be up early for work. So whenever she and I started dating, I was like, well, I'm just going to stop going out during the weekdays, and we can still go out and drink beer on Friday and Saturday nights, whatever. So I started regulating my social life, because I was finally with somebody that like I felt comfortable with. Obviously, had seen how much dumb shit I was doing. And I was just like, you know, it's not really worth it, because I always kind of figured if I was going to wind up finding somebody, then I was going to chill out. Yeah. Because that was the whole thing. It's just, and you know, shout out to the listeners, if I can forgive my language, but chasing ass and drinking beers with the boys is fun. But whenever you're kind of notoriously running with a gang of fellas.
Agreed.
When you're notoriously running with a group of fellas that all we did was chase ass and drink beer until we couldn't fucking walk, and then doing illicit drugs until, you know, the sun came up the next day.
And then wake up and do it right again.
Yeah, and there's something seemingly unattractive about that. I haven't put my finger on it, but there wasn't a lot. So whenever I found somebody that obviously saw how dumb I was acting, I was just like, I'm gonna kind of like rearrange my priorities, because it was worth trying to keep her around. And then she was with me through like the summer, where I went back into fucking partying full mode, because I was doing a lot of music promotion shit at that time, and I was just off my ass. And it got to the point at that time where, I mean, this is like a timeline of shit. I mean, it got to the point where I was so fucking on edge with work and everything else. I was just like, I would be able to close my eyes at night, and I could hear the sound of a slide of a pistol, like if I was cocking the gun, because I was like, I was almost in a psychosis of thinking that I was unintentionally about to kill myself. Was like how fucking deep it was. I would close my ears, or I would close my eyes, and I would hear fucking, and I was like, oh, do I have a fucking gun in my hand right now? Meanwhile, she was next to me in bed, and I would just be like, what the fuck is going on?
You're freaking yourself out.
Oh, dude, yeah. No, because I was running on, well, at that point in time, I was cycling some SARMs and shit from the gym, but I was also like partying and doing Adderall and drinking, and I really wasn't keeping
fucking
up.
Adderall.
And I was still doing a ton of coke, and then I was just off my shit, and I was like, all right, I need to reel it back in. So we broke up because I wasn't right in the fucking head, and then I was like, okay, this is again where I find myself, where I'm doing a bunch of dumb shit, need to reel it the fuck back in, because I'm losing everything.
Yeah,
I couldn't function really well at work. I was still going to work, but obviously she and I just had broken up over the fact that I fucking had no cognitive ability or competence for a relationship. I was falling back into this trap of heavy lustfulness, and not that there was like cheating in the mix or anything like that, but it was just very heavy, and like, why isn't this enough? Like, I always kind of just urging for this fulfillment, not really being gracious and appreciative of where I was at in my life. And so I started going through the motions again, where I was like, okay, I need to reel this back in. And I started going down this path of finding God again.
Yeah.
And just this rediscovery of like, get sober, clean your shit up, disappear from the bar, focus on going to the gym, like work through your shit, get fucking clean off of everything, and pray all the time. And when you come off of high amounts of stimulants all at once, your anxiety is fucked.
Oh yeah.
And that's something that I've really retained is like, okay, like this is just exhausting. This is kind of like what we were talking about just a minute ago, where you're like, how many times can somebody call you before you're just like, all right, what do you want from me? Because you can't always be there. That was me to myself. I was like, how many times am I going to fucking do this before I'm finally fed up with myself enough to be like, come on, bitch, like get it the fuck together.
Yeah. And that's kind of my deal, you know, because I stressed the fuck out. And I told you I lost my hair. I was losing my hair, you know, and one day, man, I was just like, fuck it, dude. Why am you know, I'm in this fucking rat race, and it was just like this big fucking just weight just came off of me. Well, you know, and ever since
when
then,
you finally let go,
when I finally let go, I'm like, why am I so fucking? But ever since then, dude, and that's kind of where my little shit started, my little journey started. You know, and it was something that would just pull me in a direction.
But see, that's the thing with God, though, is like, whenever you kind of center focus yourself into praying and you're leaning, it's the same thing with the gym. Mm-hmm. I started realizing that it was really, really, really important that I wasn't prioritizing me getting fucked up for a fulfillment, rather than like, there's enough fulfillment in this life that you can achieve through your faith in Christ that does not require you to have a good time by going out and getting fucked up. Because we always assimilate and put the two things together, that you have to get fucked up to have a good time.
Yeah.
Yep.
You have to be able to cut loose by having a good time and going out and drinking and hanging out with the fellas.
Like what would make this situation better? A beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
But it's just
I get 4 of these in, I get chill.
But I think that's also just a thing that comes along with like, you can finally kind of like, especially for men, it's just like you're with the fellas. What sounds better than hanging out with the fellas, having a few beers, and then after a few beers, you can finally talk about what the fuck's on your chest without getting called a pussy.
Yeah.
Like, and so that was one of the big things that happened with me, and then eventually like go back in and out of these spells. But I also realized that so many cool things was happening whenever I was cognitive. Like I wasn't like waking up the next day hungover, worrying about whether or not somebody was mad at me, or, you know, I was actually able to sit there and hold over a conversation.
I feel like you begin to start to learn to enjoy other things.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know, it is cool just to be here and enjoy the, you know, the scenery, or, you know, something like that.
Like I said, I like having a good beer. I like having cold beer. I like enjoying a whiskey. I like having a good glass of wine with a steak. Like, but I can also rip some fucking Diet Cokes and a few dips and just chill. Like,
see, mine was different. Mine wasn't, hey, you know, that there's so much cool stuff that happens, right? My mentality was like, damn, I'm missing a lot. By being fucking out of it, you know.
Well, then you get fucked up, and it's the same thing.
Like, this happens all the time. I'm just never paying attention.
I had this realization a few years ago, and I think going to concerts was God's way of being like, here, let me go ahead and show you. Go to a concert sober. Go to a concert, because I remember having a conversation with one of my clients a few years ago, and they're like, yeah, going to concerts is fun, and I like getting fucked up while I'm at concerts. And then it kind of clicked for me, and it's just like, you spend $40 to $50, maybe even more, you know, and of course you're not paying $500 to go see. I mean, I'm not going to go see her personally, but Taylor Swift. But you're also not going to be paying $18 a fucking beer. But you go to a football game or baseball game or whatever, and you're paying these outrageous prices. You get hammered. You don't remember any of it.
Yeah.
So you tell yourself and you tell other people that you're having a good time. There's so many Snapchat memories of me on people's phones out there in this fucking world, especially in this town. God willing, do not expose me, but like I know that there's a video on my buddy from Robert Lee's phone where we had pulled an all-nighter, coincidentally, after Thanksgiving, and we were off our fucking asses, and we would sit outside and have these deep intellectual conversations that nobody would fucking remember. Yeah. And it was like 1 p.m, and I was dancing on the pool table at fiddle strings, and I was fucked up, and it's just like. It's funny, and even I have one of my best friends in the world. He keeps his Snapchat for this exact reason, because he has changed. He got sober. He changed his life. He can have a beer every once in a while too. Gave his life to God. Does a lot of mission work. He went on a mission trip for a long time, for 11 months, I think, like a full year. Came back, he got in shape, really tried to start prioritizing and he's not resentful, he's not vindictive about any of this. But we and him were sitting down one time and he was like, I still get my Snapchat memories and I just only look at it and I think, what the fuck was I doing? Like, who let me do this? Why was I doing? And it's because you're around so many people that act the exact same way. But eventually, if you have enough foresight to see it and be like, I think
that discernment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, once you have the foresight to be able to discern what you're doing and then you continue to do it, you're fucking doing it to yourself, and that's how you fucking lose everything.
Oh yeah, no, I totally get that, man. See, because my example of where it's like, how do you know when it's there, right? Like you talked about going to a concert. This is how, whatever this is, because I hate to put labels on it, but that's creator, right? I'll pull up. Let's say this concert example you were talking about. I'm like, damn, I'd really want to go in there, but I don't have any money. And some random dude is like, hey, boss, I got an extra ticket. Here you go. And I'm like, what the fuck? I just random. I mean, he's like, it's like there's this beacon of light saying, go to this concert.
Yeah, go have fun.
You don't have a fucking dime in your pocket, but some guy pulls up. He's like, hey, bud,
here's a ticket.
I got an extra ticket. Here you go for free.
But that
how did you know to walk up to me? And I'm like, oh, I know what this is.
But
Let's go check this out.
That's kind of the thing, though. Is like I think, and I'll say it. I mean, like I think God and Christ is my savior. I think God allows human interactions with one another to really be the intervening factor and not it be so dictated by like really bad pastors or whatever terrible church experiences because there's
a couple in town.
Yeah, well, and I think that because of that, we see these moments and we can't really define them. But for me, I know that the way that I started really looking at it whenever I got because at one point in time I was like, I'm going to be a pastor. And I did not want to go to seminary, but I just wanted to understand it because now I just kind of look at it like if I can tell anybody anything, the way that the analogy that I use is that Scripture's real. There's, I mean, like there's no scientific evidence to show that there isn't, but it's also like there's things that have happened through the world and through the timeline of the world in which it's already spoken about in Scripture. It's more of it's the most historically accurate book to ever exist, and that's just the way it is. But I know for a fact that whenever you really start thinking about, it's not this guideline, it's not these rules that you have to follow. It's the fact that a man who came down as Christ and is God died, and once you really figure out and understand the 6 hours that he was bearing on the cross, being killed by his people, that he died for you. It's not you follow these rules for the sake of, and of course, like I said, I'm having a few drinks, whatever. I mean, I don't want to be a bad or misrepresentation for anybody that's listening, but whenever you really start assimilating it to that, you stop looking at it as like, I have to do this, but I get to do this. It's like, even with I don't want to drink as a bad I don't want to, it's not that I don't want to drink. It's I don't want to get blackout drunk and get all fucked off and do dumb shit because I don't want to be a bad representation. And to that point, it's like, what would it say about your character as a husband if every single night you were going out to the bar, or as a father, you were going out every single night getting fucked up and like not spending any time with your family? People are probably going to assume it's not really a great dad. It's not really, you're not really a great husband because you're not at home spending time with your kids. And it's no shot at you. It's just, it's just a direct reflection of your actions.
Yes.
It's not you bad mouthing your wife. It's the same thing with like, you don't go out and cheat on your wife or anything like that. You don't go beat on her or anything. And it's not because you have to not follow those guidelines. It's because you love her and you choose to love her.
Yeah.
So you look at faith as a relationship that you abide by, but the difference is the unconditional love that's offered with Christ is the fact that with that, you don't, even on the times that you do take advantage of it, he still welcomes you back. As to a point where there's the conditional love aspect that because we can't really fully comprehend unconditional love. It's like, I've known.
I think you can though.
I think, well, there's I've known relationships where it's like, homeboy or homegirl's been fucking around on their significant other, and they'll forgive them for a certain amount of time. But then there's a certain amount of time. There comes a point where you have to draw that fucking line.
Yeah.
Or you're dicking around in your own life and you're doing a bunch of. It's the same thing. Like you can drive home drunk as many times as you want to, but there's gonna come a time.
Oh yeah.
Where you're either gonna kill yourself, kill somebody, or get caught. Yeah. And it's only a matter of time. Now you might go your whole life without ever having to experience it, but it could have happened on one of the fucking weekends that you decided to stay home and not do anything.
Yeah.
Like on Halloween, we stayed out and we partied. And 2 days ago, my brother was showing me one of the mugshots with one of the guys that I was hanging out with who got a DUI that night. And he was at that function longer than I was. Now, whether or not that's divine intervention, call it what you will, but I know going home that night, I was praying, and I mean, that might be a confession to me having been a little fucked up whenever I drove. But realistically, I'm really kind of tired of this whole bullshit where people are like, they'll check the jail roster and be like, oh, would you look at that? And it's just like, you did the same shit last week. I was with you. Yeah. You did the same dumb shit you can't pass that judgment on the others. Caught, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the moral high ground that we were talking about earlier. People would rather chase this idea of morality just for the sake of saying that they're better than somebody else on the basis that
which is the reason why I think there's these people that actually watch that fucking jail roster every fucking day, because it makes them feel better about themselves by seeing somebody that's going through it. They're like, look at them. I'm not like that. You know, like I'm like, dude.
But it makes you, because they're in a shitty spot. But you know what I mean? So it does. It makes them feel better. It makes them feel better.
Because we only equate people. So with faith, with Christianity, Scripture says we're all sinners. We're all broken and we all need a Savior. But whenever we bring it to this self-judging moral high ground, we can dictate exactly who's worse than others based on that. So we get to be able to look at other people and be like, I'm better than them because I didn't do that. And it's just like, who's to say that you don't do that in 5 years?
Now you're passing judgment.
Yeah. And I guarantee you, like, I mean, you might live this whole life morally right, but you know, you could have been talking bad about somebody's technically a sin. So, you know, I guarantee you everybody fucking gossips.
Oh yeah.
Everybody fucking gossips. So like,
who doesn't?
Exactly. Like,
we're doing it now.
Yeah, I mean, technically this is passing a judgment onto somebody else. And again, I don't choose the moral high ground on this because I don't have the right for the moral high ground. I know that I'm fucked up. You can call me out on my bullshit. Like but the thing is that I'm trying to choose to not do dumb shit and honoring God for what I do. And a lot of people will call that a load of horse shit, but I'm figuring it out.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to not stay stagnant, and I'd really rather try to take people with me on this journey because I'd rather people not constantly be stuck in this state of constant anxiety and being fucking coked out and hanging out at the fucking bar all the time or dicking off or like living an unhealthy life. And it's not that, I mean, ideally, I would like to look at everybody in 10 years and we can all have a fucking beer, and then when we all peace out from this life, we have something else to look forward to.
Right.
Yeah.
And we all understand the grace that's given to us.
We were talking about the balance, balancing everything out between, with your life. And a while back I was told, especially when I was going to church a lot, there was a guy, I can't even remember his name. He had told me, he was like, you need to get these three things balanced. He was like, and you're going to mess up here, you're going to mess up there, but as long as you're working on one of them or all of them at the same time, but it's body, mind, spirit.
And you're choosing to not continue the same mistakes. Yeah. That's also Proverbs. The righteous man will fall 7 times and get back up 8.
Yeah.
There's all these inspirational worldly quotes that we have. And once you kind of like, you don't even have to be super in depth, but you can, if you have enough biblical knowledge, you realize it's just like, hey, that's actually a passage in Scripture.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just look at it like, oh, the Old Testament God is like terrible. It's just like, well, he lets it up to an extent. Like that's always kind of the thing is like you can go do and dick around everything that you want to do for an extent, but he wouldn't be a right and just God if he didn't put a line into it. Yeah. Like how else are you supposed, because if all of this injustice would continue to happen if there wasn't a God, but then he draws this line, you know what I mean? Like, and then that line gets drawn and then all of a sudden it's just like, that's the kid that acts up and continues to act up and continues to act up until eventually you're just like, fucking quit.
Yeah. You know, there's some, I totally get it. There's some people that really get lost when you get in the religion talk of it, you know. They're just like, oh, I'm not going to go through all that because that it's whatever it is about religion that puts these people off, right?
Right.
So I hate to miss those people because at the end of the day, it's like you stop and you become self-aware. Hey, what I just did, would I like it if somebody did that to me?
Right.
You know, and it's like I don't want to lose that in the because I'm sure somebody could listen to it like, oh, fuck religious talk.
Right.
Which it's like, look, don't.
But all these things are correlating with one another.
Yes.
Like,
Oh no, totally, exactly. Yeah. And it's like I don't want you to misinterpret the religious talk without you having some self reflection of it. Hey, what you just did to whatever the fuck it might be. You know, is that how you would want you to be represented?
Right. What we just heard right now is his testimony.
Exactly.
And that's actually what brings a lot of people to it, and it because a lot of people like you'll have the people that are like, oh, that religious talk. Yeah. There's gonna be, and this is where it's beneficial, is there's gonna be, even if it's one person that heard it and they can relate and they're like,
no, definitely.
Well, and one of the biggest things about faith in general. So like, there's several, I guess, nuances that people kind of miss. Is like, people don't want to abide or serve a God, right? Because they want to feel independent. So it's like, one, you're a slave to your own satisfaction because there's nothing that you're going to do in this life for yourself that isn't for yourself, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because the question that C.S. Lewis poses to people, I believe in Mere Christianity, is even if you abide by faith and you get to the end of this life and you find out that there's nothing there, what did you miss? Nothing.
Nothing.
Because everything you would have done otherwise would have been self-serving. But also, to choicefully serve God is different than slavery. That's why you have free will. You can walk away if you want to, and that doesn't mean that he doesn't care about you. He's giving you the choice, because servitude is a choice.
A lot of people do walk away and come back too.
Yeah.
They just
right.
They go through these weird times. Everybody does.
Oh, everybody
does.
Right, and sometimes you just need to try to. I don't want to say look a little bit harder, but just never lose it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Continue to pray, continue to question again, it's about finding a community, even if it's not going to a church, but finding somebody that you trust I think going and finding a church is the evolution in the relationship with God, but it's the same thing with if you like a girl, like the first time that y'all ever met somebody that you're really interested in, it's like you're going to be the weird motherfucker that kind of sits in the back and just writes her name down in a book all day, every day, and then fantasize about what you could be.
Yeah.
Or are you going to go talk?
So what would you say with somebody like me? Because I don't think church is the way. Because I'm not knocking it. It's just not my way.
I think that kind of brings us back to the whole you have to be a representation.
Yes,
and because you are the church.
Yes,
the building of the church, the way I see it, it's essential, because in Ephesians it talks about having people around you. It's kind of like, I don't want to correlate it.
It's anywhere that there's two or more people that are talking about God can be considered.
So
a church.
this is technically considered a church.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be the building itself. It's about the congregation.
A community.
It's about the congregation.
Okay.
And so as long as you're continuously having that conversation, but also it's the idea that you can also continue to learn. So right, anywhere that there's two or more people congregating and talking about God. So a church could be this, or it could be Paul Ann, it could be Celebration, it could be the 456, which is my home church. It could be Redeemer, the Vessel, any of these churches around here.
456, where's that at?
It's out in Dove Creek.
I know what you're talking, man. Okay, it's crazy you say that, right? Because there's a guy that he's out there. He's one of the pumpers on the next field, right? And he's like, Oscar, I don't go to church. I don't go anything, man. He goes, but there's something about 456. He goes,
that's my home church.
Yeah, he goes, I went. He goes, he lives in Knickerbocker. Not Knickerbocker. He lives in Cristobal, so he's got to drive around, right? And he comes to Knickerbocker and drives out to go to the lease. He's like, I don't know, like something called me one day. Said, hey, go to this church. Like something pulled him into this church. He goes, Oscar, completely changed my life. He goes, the sermon is fucking great. It's non-denominational.
Yeah.
He's like, it's just
Ryan Douglas is the pastor.
He's like, it is about. He goes, I went in there. It's like it was called.
That's wild to hear that.
It was mind blowing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's how. So whenever
He's invited me plenty of times to go.
I think it would be good just because like the thing here. So okay, the evolution of the way that churches have been ran is to have been radically. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it. Evangelicalized.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because people started making it more about personal experience rather than actual scripture. So the way Ryan has always pastored.
Ryan what?
Ryan Douglas. He has an art studio downtown. He owns Douglas Fine Arts. He's a painter.
Okay.
But the way that he's always pastored has always been really, really. It sets in because if you notice, he'll talk about his own personal life. He doesn't want to like super relate it to you, but in an application, he'll tell you how you can use it. But he'll use his own examples, but he doesn't try to make it feel like he's pulling you in emotionally. He's going to read you scripture. He's going to tell you what's going on in that passage or in that verse or in that chapter, and then he leaves it to you. Mm-hmm. He's not trying to convince you of anything. He's just teaching you the way that's supposed to be. The way if you showed up to math class, right? Like, you don't get to argue that 2 + 2 = 4. That's just it. He tells you, he's not going to argue with you. He's not going to make you feel super emotionally invested into it. I mean, maybe, I don't want to speak for him, but like whenever I moved back to San Angelo in 2018, we started going and it was an evening service and they've been a church for 12 years.
Yes.
It was an evening service with 12 of us. And then this was whenever I was going through my bad breakup and I was addicted to opiates. And I mean, like, they're very, like, I've known Pierce for over a decade now. And I've had a relationship with you guys for a few years now. Ryan and I used to go get lunch every Thursday with some of the other guys from church. It doesn't feel like a place you have to go and put on face, if that makes sense.
Yes.
You feel like home when you walk. It's Olive Garden for churches. It feels like home. And here, your family.
I like that.
Much better than Olive Garden. It's the living. It's the living word of God. But the way Ryan preaches, it's not the hoity-toity. And a lot of people, it's a lot like how Billy Graham used to preach. He just tells you.
Yeah.
You know, it's an open door. It's again that choice, and it's not like these pastors that make it really big and glamorous, and like you fucking leave there and you're just like, I attended church today, or this is the church that I attend. Like, people take such pride in the church that they attend, but they never go out and they never represent God.
Yeah.
They put the quote in their bio, or they'll share something on Facebook, but people are really timid about it. And some of the best conversations I've ever had are actually in the bar, and I'd have a few beers, and all my face and head tattoos are religious, or spiritually based, or for faith. And that was one of the big things, is that he just leaves that door open for you.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really beautiful thing. I think you would experience it. If you experience it, sitting down and actually having a conversation. The dude is so smart.
Yeah.
And
it'd be good to listen to, because, like I said,
even if you wanted to have him
on it.
Even if you wanted to have him on here, like I could talk to him and hopefully try to get him on here, and I think that would be a really fun conversation. I mean, I know it's a lot more loose, but they have their own podcast called Simpler.
Yes.
And so that's how they go through, and they kind of just have open forum conversation about scripture and how application works in the real world.
Yeah.
And but to that point, I guess to tell you, I can't tell you what to believe. I can tell you my experiences with it.
Uh-huh.
And there is enough fulfillment in it that creates this bound. It helps you relate to others. It helps you have all that coming out of all of those really anxious times. I would be a fucking wreck if I didn't have Christ, if I didn't have my faith. And then you just kind of learn over time to have gratitude for the things that you have, and that you don't need to have things of this world. You don't need to go out and get
the
fucking
plastered.
Yeah, plastered. And I mean, I like my boots. I like my. You can have things, or you can do things, and
you have a unique style.
Well, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm a little manic, but
What thing he's wearing? I think he's like all cowboyed out, or he's all. I guess what's the other style?
I don't know, dude. I just
like
some
choloed
days
out, and I'm like, what the fuck? Every
And
time
then
I see him, he looks different.
And then I'll come into work sometimes in gym clothes. But that's the thing, though, is what I've realized is I'm a walking, talking example of what I'm about to say. Is for the longest time, and what we face today is that everybody is searching for an identity, but nobody can have an identity unless they know their creator.
Yeah.
You don't know what your design is until you know the designer.
Yeah.
And I would always try to fit in with these different people. And turns out I can fit in with almost any fucking group.
Oh, no, definitely.
But
You're like the village people in one.
but the beautiful thing about it is that you stop searching for that identity whenever you know who created you and what he says about you and living in that.
Yeah.
Because people are always trying to. I'm a barber. I'm a roadie. I sell merch. I work in a salon. I'm not even an amateur bodybuilder by any means, but I have all these different things under my belt, and I can choose day to day what I want to be that day, depending, I guess, on if you look at how people, how you dress. I'm obviously not a very normal person. I have face tattoos all over, but at the same time, I don't let any of that define me, because I know who I am. I'm a child of God. Christ is my savior, and I don't have to worry about what other people label me, because I know that I'm deep down I was broken, and now I'm redeemed and I'm saved.
And that's kind of what I kind of have, that weird notion that I was like, man, am I a hypocrite? Because I do believe in a creator. They say, oh, God or Jesus. I'm like, if that's what you want to call it, because I'm like, I don't know what to call it. I don't, because I'm not the religious type. I know that there's something there. So when people talk to me and there's like, I don't like to get in the religious part of it. And then I'm just like, hey man, there's just not really much to worry about. If you just look, there is a creator, there is somebody out there that loves you, whatever it is that you want to call it. Cause I felt it, and when I try to push that, I'm like, you're stressing about stuff that doesn't need to be stressed about.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and it's just like, look, just treat people how you want to be treated,
right?
And it's to a point, it's the same.
So you live in by the golden rule.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
because I'm like, I'm not gonna tell you scriptures because I don't know the scriptures.
I'm gonna go pee real quick.
Oh no, go ahead. I don't know the scriptures, so let me tell you my experience. And it's been positive for me.
Right.
Like if they say, "Oh, that's God," I was like, maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and try to explain to you what it is because I don't know what it is.
Right.
I can't put a name to it. I haven't seen a face.
Maybe by going, you might be able to actually.
Yeah, you know what? That's great because we were saying that, and then you brought up that church, and I'm like, maybe
It's a sign.
Like I said,
you never know.
I said, there's something that pulls me in that direction. Like, what are the chances that they go to the same church?
Right.
Literally a small church in Dove Creek.
Who would have thought that our conversation would have went that way?
Would have gone that way. So maybe it
didn't
is.
Start that way at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, maybe it is. He's like, hey, maybe it's like, look, man, I've given you this, and you are spreading. Mm-hmm. I try to spread that word. It's like, dude, there's nothing to worry about. Yeah. You're worried about materialistic stuff that's just it's going to go away tomorrow.
Right.
And
we sit here and have these conversations all the time, and you are pretty, like, you're like, oh, I believe that there's a creator, but I don't believe, I don't think you've ever actually said that you don't believe that Jesus.
No,
that he's because I've said on here before that I believe that Jesus is the way, like that's the way to the Father is through Jesus, like that's the Son.
That's in John,
right? So that's the way that I believe, but I know that you don't necessarily believe that way. You just know that there is a God,
yes,
because of the things that have happened in your life. But
I can't put it to words.
You can't put it towards there. You go.
To
and maybe, and I've never, like, we sat here and we've had conversations before, but I don't try to push my beliefs on you because I just feel like all that's going to do is make you like more like
because that's where I got earlier, where it's like the religious connotation to some people is just like it's real put offish.
A lot of people,
because I'll tell you one thing, like to me, and it's different for everybody, but I've had this weird taste about the Catholic Church. And
well, Catholicism
Yeah.
is kind of like a little fucked, to be honest.
Yeah, you know, so I grew up Catholic, you know what I mean? So I'm baptized as Catholic, but it's left me this fucking bad taste in my mouth where it's like, I don't even want to say that it's the church that put me in this direction, because I'm just like, God, I just don't want to be associated with that, because I don't believe that. I don't believe what y'all believe.
Right.
Well, I mean,
You know?
but then that was a huge thing too, is that the dictation on, and I mean, I have Catholic friends. I think that they know pretty well where I stand. I'd outright say just like Mormonism and Scientology is just kind of in the same boat for me. It's just like, go away. But it's not Christianity in and of itself. Again, kind of like what we're talking about with the depiction of characteristics. It's not supposed to be about you pushing it on people, which is something that has been lost in generations, because it was like the thing was like, you have to go out and make disciples of the nations.
Convert.
Right.
Yeah,
but
that shit right there.
you don't do it with words. I mean, you could obviously tell people, but you're supposed to lead with actions. So like this whole last 45 minutes, it's just like, what was the thing that the reoccurring theme was? Every time I got really anxious or got really in a bad spot, I would pray and it would calm me down. So like whenever all this election shit was going on, it was like, does it really matter?
No.
Like, because
You really
at
don't
the end
have
of the day,
any control of what's going to happen.
Well, God always has his control over the dominion of what's going to happen in the world. Now, and that was repeated a lot in Daniel, is that it does not matter who the ruler is, that like this is still God's world. But I will also to the effect of what you're talking about with like whoever, whatever with religion, it's like, yeah, you can deem whoever you want to, whether it be, we're not going to digress, but you can divulge into all the different facets of religion, but even theologically speaking, there is only one God in one religion that came down and took on human flesh and died for all man's sins in grace. You don't find that in any other religion. Hinduism and Buddhism is completely practiced based on your own works in your life, and so unless you're a monk in a monastery, you're probably gonna, go out there and go do whatever, or you're gonna reap what you sow in that sense. Islam is same practice. Every single religion you have to abide by the rules and you have to obey them perfectly. Yes. There's a disciplinary action based on punishment because you're afraid of what's going to come next. And I think that there's a lot of parallels with that in the Catholic Church. Respectfully, I mean that is just what it is. That's the doctrine in a lot of cases.
That's that whole fire and brimstone.
Yeah, and that was a huge thing with the Baptist Church and the Christian sect. But at the same time, Christianity is the only faith in which God came down in flesh and died for all man's sins.
Let me ask it's probably going to sound a very ignorant question. Okay, but what is Christianity?
Christianity,
like what's the? I guess I don't have.
It's the belief in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter whether they're Catholic, Baptist, whatever. They're all fall under the umbrella of Christianity.
Ish, not really. I think it's the same thing with like.
I mean, because technically they all.
Well, so you have Calvinism and Lutheranism, which are both different denominations within Christianity.
Okay.
John Calvin and Martin Luther are the two that developed these denominations based on their perception of how they interpreted Christianity or reading Scripture. So
it's the Scripture, the Bible,
right?
Okay.
But it is their interpretation and how they taught it.
Okay,
if that makes sense. So that's why they have two different dictations. That's why they're their own entities and their own denominations, is because they teach two different principal rules.
Okay.
I believe even the Baptist Church
that's why
has a separate Bible into it. Like it's still the same Bible, but I think they've either added or changed something in it.
So it's kind of like versions of like the King James Bible or the New Version Bible.
Yeah.
Right?
Ish, yeah. But then you have the separation. I can't remember what distinct happenance occurred whenever there was the separation of the Baptist and the Southern Baptist Church. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that was based on music presentation. Do you have, and same thing with Church of Christ. It's like, do you use instruments or do you sing a cappella? Do you have any sort of instrument? You don't dance in some. You can't dance or worship in some churches.
Yeah.
So,
Some churches actually require the
Yeah.
women. They have to have a certain hairstyle.
Yeah, or wear dresses.
Or wear dresses. Yeah.
Right. And so that's why, especially with 456 and being a non-denominational church, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I've sat and had conversations with Ryan whenever they get heat, because a lot of people have a disagreement. But the way that he teaches, and the way that in my opinion, any real church isn't worried about the crossing the T's and dotting the I's. It's strictly, you teach Jesus.
Spread the word. Yes,
The same way purists watch Star Wars 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3 is the way that you should read
Bible.
Read the Bible. Read the New Testament first, and then read the Old Testament. So that way you have comprehension of when Jesus came, all the things that he relieved the world of, and then you go back and you read the Old Testament, and then you see why God ascended onto the earth and then died for all man's sins. And with the Bible, a lot of people will read it as well as these are the highlight moments of the world. They're not. It's not this timeline where one thing happens after the other. I mean, Abraham lived to be over 100 years old, and there's so much of his life that was left out of it. Yeah. But there's a huge chunk of it. I mean, whenever he accepted, don't quote me on this. I think whenever Abraham accepted God, and he had the burning bush moment, it wasn't until he was in his hundreds, maybe. He accepted God. He took on God's word in his 70s.
Yeah, you hear that? Y'all still got time.
Everybody still has time, though. That's the thing. And even if to that effect, that was a very, very rough way of interpreting it. But that's a thing. And
and his story is pretty wild. Where it picks it up from is he was commanded by God to go and sacrifice his son, but it was just to see where his faith was at. Was he willing to do it for God? And at the very last moment, God told him not to.
But it was also
he was going to do it, though.
But it's also a foreshadowing. There's so much foreshadowing that happens through Scripture and the stories. Because is Abraham willing to sacrifice Isaac? He is, but God commands him to not do it. So how do you think God feels whenever he sends his son? Whenever he sends onto the earth and he takes on man, and he does sacrifice himself. Yeah. He does sacrifice his son. That's why he's pleading with God on the walk to the garden, it describes him as sweating blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's pleading does this have to happen? But he knows that in which he has to follow.
Yeah.
And then even whenever having nails driven through your hands and your feet hung in the air for 6 hours, and then you're being prodded in your ribs and being cut open, and then it's a horrible way to die.
And that's why I always find it weird, right? Because those little pieces right there, snippets of the Bible where the sacrifices and stuff like that, that's what loses. I'll be honest.
It's weird.
That's what loses me,
Well,
right?
that's because so many people use that out of context for the sake of being
yes.
What kind of God would make you do that?
Plus, that's also a lot of those stories. Well, except for the Christ part, but a lot of those, like the Abraham and all that stuff, that's all Old Testament. So the whole idea was of the whole idea of Jesus sacrificing, obviously was for our sins, but it was also because it put it into any other type of sacrifice. You didn't no longer have to sacrifice a lamb or anything else, because the ultimate sacrifice had already been made.
Yeah. And I guess that's just the weird part that I get it, right? Because like I've said, I had stuff where I'm just like, oh, that's totally undeniable.
Right.
Something's happening, right? And I don't know any of that. So to me, I don't, whatever it is that's happening that I've witnessed, right? It's like, you don't need to know all that. It's kind of weird that I don't know that, but I still see. I still see I'm still can discern.
What's crazy is you actually do know quite a bit about the Bible, because we've had conversations, and you could almost recite some of the stuff, and I'm like, you do know, because
I do.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but see, knowing that is why I'm not so ignorant to this to where that's why I guess that's why I spit there. I don't know the Bible because I don't know it word for word, right? But I do know it. I know enough to be like, I don't want I don't want to associate with that. Like, I know that there's a creator, and I know all that. Like, my belief is there. It's 100%.
Yeah.
Well, it's like what we were talking about earlier. Whenever you said, like, this is the longest conversation we've had. You know the story, but you don't have the relationship.
Yes.
So that's what we're doing right now, right? You know my story because you've seen me around, and I think that's where so many people get misconstrued with faith, is that they hear the stories, but they've never really built that relationship, because it's always been like, you have to believe this, but you're never encouraged to actually spending time with God in a very personal way.
Yeah, and that definitely.
And I think that we no matter what, even whenever I was an atheist, I was very, very like, I think I would. I mean, at this point, I would reflect. I would say I prayed, but at that point, I would just be like, I would shirk it off to being like, God, please let this happen or whatever. Like, just wishful thinking, or what people call nowadays manifesting.
Oh yeah,
and then shit happens, but everybody wants to manifest winning the lottery.
Yeah,
like,
no one ever wins it.
But
those few do though.
And then eventually comes the time whenever you have to really kind of mature in your faith. And one of those first nuances for me was like, because death is a huge thing, right? So people generally tend to say, well, if God is real, then why didn't he heal my sick mom? Or why didn't he heal, why did so-and-so have to die or whatever? And it's just like, in that instance, you're praying for healing. Well, your interpretation of healing is they're going to get better and they're going to be all spunky and shit. Whether it be a terminal illness where they die, it's like, well, first of all, they're moving on into the next world instead of living in a sick world. But
it's like that country song. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to go now.
Yeah. Well, and then,
and
then so many people also the same thing. You get in a car wreck. Now, there could be multiple facets of why you got in that car wreck to begin with, but then you get paralyzed, and it was like, well, if God's real, and why did that person get paralyzed? Why are you shirking this person off as no longer being useful to society just because they're paralyzed?
Exactly.
Like,
that shit irks the fuck out of me, man.
There's a silversmith, and I don't want to try to be as respectful as possible. His name is Dossie Cribbs, and from what I understood, he drank a lot, and he wound up getting in a car accident. He lost use of his legs. And then from then on, he got sober. But then he found his faith. He found a very profound faith because he wasn't able to use his legs as a result of his own actions. Because he was, I think he got into a drunken driving accident. But then he was able to really prioritize his talents and be able to create something.
Yeah.
And now he uses it as a means of ministry. Like, you're able to actually create something and do something very beautiful with your life because you had something taken away. Yeah. And that doesn't always have to, but the Ray Wiley Hubbard, and I mean, Ray Wiley Hubbard is a practicing Buddhist, but like, there's a great line where it's like, some people see the light and some people have to feel the fire.
Yeah.
And some people, I think what you're talking about earlier with the apostles, it's like, Paul was a murderer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there were liars, there was adulterers, there was like a lot, like, I mean, these were like the fuck ups of all the fuck ups. But you feel a little bit of the fire, and sometimes the reason why you have to feel that fire is because God has a much bigger intention for your life than what you are willing to acknowledge, because you've been pigeonholed. Yeah. People put you in this, and that's why you can't identify with anything on this earth aside from being a child of God, because people will tell you what you are.
Yeah.
And you can't accept that. You have to be willing to move forward. Yeah. You have to be willing to, like, grit your teeth, humble yourself, and bite down on the fact that there are going to be people. And another thing is, even with the suffer well that I have tattooed on my above my eyebrow, is that it's a reference to 1 Peter, where it's like, you suffer well in the name of Christ, because to suffer for anything else, it's just meaningless. Like, there's no point to it.
Yeah.
If you're going to suffer, let it be suffering for the man who already died for you. Like, even in different parts of Scripture, it talks about, like, the world hated me. What do you think they're going to do to you? Like, you're not going to escape it. They're going to fucking not like you for one thing or another. And it's just the mindful arrogance that I think a lot of people go on about in life, where it's not trying to, like what you were talking about, it's not the same kind of arrogance that you were referring to, but it's more so, I can dictate my own life and where I want to go, and I'm going to be liked by everybody. But if you're liked by everybody, I mean, there's that old gangster saying. It's like if you're a friend to everybody, then
You're a friend of no one.
You're a friend to nobody because you have no loyalty.
Yeah.
You lack integrity. You lack the ability to actually stick up for something.
Yep.
And that's why people ask me all the time. They're like, "Well, what'd you get the crown of thorns tattoo on your head?" It's like, if the crown of thorns was worn by my king, then I can wear it too because I want you to know. I want you to know what's going on. And that's another reason why I have a little bit of conviction about trying to like straighten my shit out about like not getting fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a reminder that like you really need to carry yourself in a different way, not in the sake of being a high roller or anything like that. But you do it because you're not here living for yourself anymore. And you know, people will.
Well, that's one of the biggest things, right? It's not for yourself.
Yeah.
You live, like that's why, like,
and you don't have to obviously get a tattoo. Like, you know, that's kind of an arrogant thing on my end and go do it. But
right,
I do it because I am fucking.
But like even going to like, let's just say AA, for example, one of the first things, and I don't remember if it's the first step or what, but it's to acknowledge that there's something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Not being not being self-serving.
Because you're not self-serving. It's not all about you no more.
You know, I do. I mean, of course, no one's perfect. I'm far from it, but that's how I try to live my life, man. I try to live my life. I want people to associate my family with, I guess, me with my family. I'm a representation of my family,
and exactly. But you're also the bride of Christ, and whenever you accept faith, because you are a part of that family.
Yeah.
And
because I'm not, like I said, I won't preach the Bible. I won't preach any of that. But I'm like, dude, you're not alone. You know,
right.
We've said this plenty of time on here. It's like, you know, you're not alone. But there's some people. There's a really good saying. Of course, I'm going to butcher it because I don't fucking remember how it is. Where, oh fuck, you know what? I'm not even going to bring it up because I'm going to butcher it.
Okay,
but
still,
it was kind of the sense of like you just can't. There's sometimes you have to like not really cut people off, but it's like, look, I can't help you until you help yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You know, so I can't do nothing for you. You know, so that's why I didn't answer your phone call. That's why I didn't, because you're not ready to move past the bullshit that you reciprocate every fucking day.
Yeah.
You know, you feel for this woe is me shit and all.
The victim mentality.
Yeah.
Misery.
I was like,
that's misery loves company.
Yeah, because I'm like, look,
yeah.
I want to help you, but what that does is it transfers a little bit of your shit over to me, and that comes back, and I reflect on it to other people, and I don't have the capacity to, you know, to put that burden on someone else.
I was talking to a friend last night about like, you know, she's going through some shit or whatever. Even like I was listening to a podcast earlier, and there's like there's a subreddit for I don't remember which mental thing it was, but you're not allowed to like say something like affirming. And the reason why you can't say something affirming is because it enables it, right? So the same way, like whenever I was talking to my friend last night, I was like, you know, you don't need to, you can't continue to allow people to ruin your peace. And if you've ever seen me wear my razor with the blood coming off of it on my chain, I was driving back from I think a show in like Stephenville or Dallas or some shit like that. And I just remember thinking to myself, and it was this transitional period in my life where I just knew that you have to cut certain shit off, and it's for the best. Like, if you get bit by a snake, you either have to suck the poison out, or you have to fucking cut the body part off before the fucking infection spreads. Like, sometimes losing that is better in the long run.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree, man. Because that's where I'm trying to. I guess once I was 40, right? Because with 40, I got hit with this fucking. See, my dad passed away at 52, you know, and I turned 40, and what that did for me, it almost put like a fucking timer on me, you know. Yeah. And from there, I told myself that I won't let someone else's shit, you know. I was like, I love you, but I just can't do you. You know what I mean? Right. Like I can't. Well, this is, I guess, towards family, you know, and it's like, oh, because I feel like this conversation is going to come up one day, right? He's like, oh, you're still mad at me? Oh, I was never mad at you. I'm just over. I'm over you. I'm over this whole situation. You know, I was never mad at you. You're the one that stayed away, you know, and of course he might hear this because I'm sure he's listening, even though we're not talking, you know, but it's like, I can't, if you want to step back into my life, great, man, come on in. You know, I miss every day that I'm not with you, you know.
But at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to call you. I'm not going to put out any more force or any more energy to try to mend this. Cause I'm like, I've already, what do you call it? Extend the olive branch to you. You want to take it? Fine, whatever, but if anybody's going to miss out on any time, it's not going to be me.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm done. I'm over it. And it's
that wishful thinking that people are going to come back around or whatever before they're even ready because they've just been taking advantage of it the whole time.
Yeah, and I'm over it. I'm over it now. Where it's like I can't. Like I said, I don't want to. I don't want to
put
bring
no more energy into it.
No more energy into it, and I don't want to absorb any of it because I don't want to put it on anybody else. Like all I want to do this whole fucking podcast, book since we started. And matter of fact, I haven't been doing it the first year, more the second year. Where it's like I know we had a buddy of mine who was on. He's atheist. And I'm like, look, it's cool your belief. I was like, I hope that whatever it is that I saw or whatever this thing, I hope you just get a glimpse of it and you notice it. Yeah. That's it. That's all I want for you.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I don't know if he was weirded out by it or what, but he's like, oh, cool. I don't know if he took it with a grain of salt or what, but we've been friends ever since.
Yeah.
We got totally different views on shit, like totally different views, but he's cool as shit. They just.
Well, some people just aren't even mad about anything. They just don't understand, and they just still have to find their way. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of the big thing is just, life is unfair to a lot of people, and the promise of the world is like life is. I mean, there's
the scary thing with that, like what you said, with people just have to find their way is, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. Is sometimes people have these bad situations that come up, and I feel like I don't want that to happen. Like I feel like. I wish I could help some people because, I want to help you find your way because I don't want something bad to happen to you because that was going to be your way of God bringing you.
Or when you see her clear as day.
Well, but and then
you see her clear as day, you're like, fuck, I'm going to step in. But as soon as you step in, all hell's going to break.
Well, that's the thing.
Oh, for sure.
That's the thing, though.
They're going to resist you.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the big things about faith in general, though, is especially in the Christian faith is whenever. I've heard this story and at least different examples of this story where you generally tend to find people that don't have a belief system or have a misconstrued idea of faith or just a negative outlook on life. But they generally tend to gravitate towards positive people if they're in a social setting because they're looking for that kind of that interaction that makes it worth it. Mm-hmm. And so if you can continue to keep your faith and be able to project the gratitude that you have in your heart towards the world, even though the world doesn't love you, you pull those people in, and eventually the question gets asked, like, why are you like this? And you're like, well, because I'm just gracious because God put me here, and I'm just happy to be here. And that opens the door for the conversation of being like, well, it's nothing that you've done. I mean, it's everything that you've done in the sense, but you've had no direct effect, if that makes sense. Like you were just living your life on a day-to-day basis where you're just happy and you're gracious for and thankful for being here and having your opportunities and being able to have some sort of effect. And people see that and they want to be associated with it because it's not you're not happy. I mean, you're not happy because of the things that you acquire. Like nobody's gonna see that you buy like a fucking brand new sports car or a brand new house and shit like that. Yeah. And they're like, oh, I want to go be around that guy because he's accomplished. I mean, like some people will if they're self-serving, but that generally winds up just kind of biting people in the ass. But this real effect of saying, like, I don't have to have a whole lot to be really, really happy.
Yeah. And
because of that, they're able to see that there is something holding you together. And then they ask and then they get curious. And the next thing you know, you have somebody that's interested and they want to go to church and then they want to know more about it because you're not pushing it on them. You're just existing the way that God intended you to exist. You're just happy to be here. You serve your time here, then you dip out.
That's the saddest thing too, though, when you see a house full of people, especially like we talking about the sports car and stuff like that. You got a house full of people that are waiting for something bad to happen to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so they can talk about it. That's it.
Yeah.
Half those motherfuckers, like, what's that shit I always say, man? It's like 70% of the people that like when something bad happens to you, right? And out of the group of people that 70% of the people don't care that it's happened to you. Mm-mm. The other 20% are glad that it's happening to you.
Yeah, that's sad.
You know, and it's like you got a house. And it's crazy because, dude, at times I've seen this, a house full of people, right? And the guy's alone. Like, you can say, yeah, you're talking to everybody, but you're like, you're not going to, once the fucking beer's over or once the shit, you know, all the food's gone, they're gone.
They're gone.
They're gone. And there's no one left over.
Yeah.
And you're left picking up the garbage.
Yep. Yeah, you're picking up all the trash at your own party.
Yep. And I see it over and over again, man. It's kind of, that really, like we had, you know, people over to the house and stuff like that, you know, and that would really solidify people that I want around me. Because when the party was over, hey, man, where's the trash bags? I'll help you. I was like, stop, you know, like, what the fuck? Like, they come out. And it's crazy because it's like, ever since I started with this little mentality, right? And this, I guess 2016 is when it happened, where, oh, hey, I can call you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm comfortable around you. You don't just pick up and bail.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the handful of fucking friends that I got, you know, because some of them I can call them like, hey, what are you doing Wednesday? You know, I need somebody to fill in. You know, they're like, yeah, man, put me down.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. And man, those come few and far between. I just hope people can fucking, you're right, man. Just stop, fucking have some self-reflection and really fucking think about the people you have in your life, man.
For sure, yeah.
You know, you don't need all the bullshit. You know, you don't need to be fighting over some fucking political bullshit. It really, at the end of the day, doesn't even fucking matter. None of it fucking matters.
It's a nice segue. That's a good
It's a good segue. It does. It doesn't matter.
Well, you'd be surprised how many people find reasons to be divisive just based off of like immediate instinct, though. Like,
yeah,
even like the political stuff.
Yeah. Well, with the political stuff, it becomes a team thing.
Yeah.
Our team against your team.
Yeah.
Which is never, it was never meant to be.
No, it was never. The way it was just fucking.
We're all Americans, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The whole thing.
We're all people.
The whole thing was created as a division thing.
Yeah.
That's what it did. Is it,
Like
it divides everybody.
This fucking MAGA shit, right? Or this blue no matter who. And I'm like,
Was that a saying?
Oh, yeah.
That's actually kind of catchy.
Yeah, blue no matter who, because that's what these people will vote Democrat no matter what, even if the guy's.
They don't
not
even look
fucking
at the name
qualified.
on the ballot. They just look at the party.
Yep,
Democrat.
They don't give a
Democrat,
fuck.
Democrat.
Which is, I mean, it's just crazy because there's plenty of people on the other side that are way more qualified.
Yeah.
They really, I mean, seek your best interest, but you're not going to vote for them because they're not on your team.
Yeah,
that's fucking retarded.
Yeah, because they anticipate the protection of the people around them. But again, they don't see the true value of friendship and integrity, but mainly because they probably never experienced, nor do they actually put that out.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, I don't want to invest that into somebody in hopes because I don't want to get let down. So you just stick with the team.
You don't think it's a person though, like Trump or Kamala?
What do you mean?
You know, once they're gone, because I mean, this is his last term.
Yeah, this is his last. Yeah.
So once they're gone, let's say we get JD Vance or whoever else, that'll be running.
I'm afraid. I'm genuine. I'm just as afraid of like the whole. If Kamala gets elected, then like this is the end of democracy as we know it because she appointed herself, and then there's no telling what happens from here. I'm just as worried about at the end of this term that people are going to love him so fucking much that they want a third term, and then they're going to be willing to break the Constitution for it.
Yeah,
because
that'd be scary.
Yeah,
that is a very, very real. It doesn't seem that way now because everybody's super caught up in the hype.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you that has already. I mean, I guarantee you there's people out there that will live and die and breathe by this man.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's a problem.
That's a scary thing. Yeah.
Well, it's because everybody has this idolatry mindset because they think somebody is gonna be able to save the world, but it's like faith. Have a founding belief and faith and be like, the world's gonna fucking end one of these days. You're gonna die one of these days. That's a matter of time.
Yeah. I always say it's gonna happen in my lifetime because why wouldn't it? I was like, the whole story's happening during my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got these fucking it's 2,000 years ago, this guy fucking whatever, right? But I'm like, let's say we're living in this fucking movie. Why wouldn't it happen during my lifetime?
Yeah.
We're just like, this is the movie that's playing out. I'm just waiting for the second half.
Well, that's another beautiful thing
act.
about faith, though, is that the vision of Revelation revelation, not revelations, just
Yeah.
no plurals, is that it depicts the end of the world, and that even in that you can't. It comes like a thief, and you can't anticipate it because it's quiet. But at the same time, it's like everybody has always assumed that, but there's still a lot of things that haven't happened, and I think with we're not really supposed to anticipate it.
No.
We just let it ride out, because at the end. But the beautiful thing about the end of the world too is the fact that when in faith, because it's like really the only theology that has depicted the end of what the end of the world is going to be like. We already know the end of the story.
Yeah,
that's true. And you know what's crazy is I'm glad you said that, because you're right, and it does say that it's not going to happen while you're sitting there like, oh man, look at all these things like you're trying to put together.
Doomsday preppers are super
They've got
funny.
The cows already. You know what I mean? Like
Doomsday preppers are
we're
funny.
We're guilty of that. You know?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen while we're sitting there. You know, it's going to happen when we're just like, oh, it didn't happen. You know, and then you just kind of move on. And
I told you it was going to happen. It's going to be during the summer, during the birthday party, where everybody's going to get picked up and saved.
By all
Prophet Oscar.
by all means, if people think that them stocking up on toilet paper is going to save them from the end of the world, do it. But I want to see. I would love to ascend and then see, look down and be like, oh, that nice little toilet paper fort's really working out for you.
Funny.
Throwing canned goods at people.
Oh fuck! Well, I mean, if this dream happens, I mean, it's gonna happen sometime while I'm in this house. I'm able-bodied, so I hope not.
I hope not either.
I hope not.
So that's a pretty.
I had a fucked up dream. Like it's this. He's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I had a fucked up dream years ago. Well, it turns out I'm living in the house that I dreamt about.
Oh,
I know, right?
It's weird.
Yeah,
it might also mean that you're where you're supposed to be at.
You know, that's why that's where I'm getting at.
But yeah, go ahead and tell them.
Oh man,
I mean, you don't have to go into all the details, but you can tell them that in the end of it, what it is, the actual situation.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's the rapture is what it is.
Oh, cool. That's super fun.
Which is yeah, because I mean it was a birthday party, but the weirdest part out of all of it, like the thing that solidifies it all for me, right, is not the fact that I live in the house. Well, maybe that's a big chunk of it, right? Where I finally realized when I look across the street and I'm like, oh fuck, oh fuck, you know.
I'm here.
But here's the crazy part: I met his sister-in-law in my dream before I even met her.
Before my brother was even married to her.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah,
because it was at a birthday party we were having at my house for one of the kids. So now I don't throw parties at my house.
And your neighbors.
Yeah, my neighbors.
It didn't even have to be. Here's the thing. It didn't even have to be your kids. It could be your grandkids.
No, 'cause I was able-bodied. I remember. You little sons of bitches.
You might be very well able-bodied until you're 80.
Oh no, not me.
He's like, no, my knees are gonna go.
I'm too overweight for that shit. It's got to happen within the next 10 years, or because if I make it to 50, I'll be useless.
Yeah, I just thought it was crazy when you said that you realized that your neighbors are the neighbors. Like those weren't the original neighbors when you moved in.
I'd have been freaked out if it was your sister-in-law.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that because I was like, I remember seeing because it was at a party we had over at the house, and she had brought Justice, and Justice was just a fucking. He was a baby. Yeah. You know, she had to help him onto the bounce house.
Yeah.
You know, so when that was happening, I was sitting there and I was like, hold on a second. I know this chick, you know, and that was, I hadn't even, maybe I met her in passing and stuff like that, but it was before they even got married, you know, or I don't know. Whenever it was, when I saw her, I was like, oh shit. Okay.
Shit.
So during this party, right, we're talking about, you know, fucking preteen. You know, all the kids are preteen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I was like, the only preteen I got right now is fuck Evan.
Yeah.
You know, he's 10. So
I guess if it happens this next year, then it happens
the next 2 years, man. Yeah. So I was like, man, and of course I didn't even recognize Evan. You know, I just know that I was like, cause he's the only one. And I remember like I really try to break it down. Okay. I was like, I didn't see anybody this age. Everybody was older, you know what I mean? They were still kids because they wanted to.
Were you married to Amy at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, because I remember that clear as day. I just remember going inside and then I hear everybody screaming. And I'm like, what the fuck? So, because I go inside to light the candles on the cake, you know, and I'm about to bring it out. And I don't, like, when I go back and remember the cake, I know it had writing, but everything was blurry, you know? So I hear everybody fucking screaming and shit like that. Right? It was weird, right? And I walk out to the back because I remember the sliding doors. I walk through the sliding doors, and I'm sitting there looking, and I see people walking around holding clothes.
Oh,
You know, I'm like, what the fuck? Everybody's like there's like just in shock. Everyone's in shock. You know, I don't see Amy. I don't see any of my kids. I mean, there's people that are gone, right?
Yeah.
So I go to the front, and I'm like, what the fuck? You know, people are coming out of their house. You know, I see my neighbor, which is crazy because when I first moved into the house, it was an old guy that was living there, right? So I'm like, I don't want to say, yeah, there was them there, and then I had a tree that was in the front. Well, I ended up killing the tree, right? So we had to pull the tree. The old guy ends up dying, and I remember in my dream there was a young couple. Well, goddamn, a young couple moves in. They're there, like they've been there, what, 2 years maybe, you know. But and on the cul-de-sac, I had a teacher. He was a coach. Well, I was like, well, I don't remember him. I remember like a short Mexican dude, you know. So I don't pay no attention. Whatever. He moves out. Well, this guy moves after Jacob. But then I remember seeing Jacob come out, and I'm sitting in front of my house, and I'm like,
so what I'm drawing from this is you probably should put your faith in Jesus. You should probably put your faith in Jesus.
Well, it's there. Like, it's there. It's there to my creator. So, I mean, it was
you
just a
being
weird
left
thing.
to the rapture is not a good thing. Although you might have just watched This Is the End, which is the really funny movie with Danny McBride and James Franco and Seth Rogen.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. What was weird, though, is that I felt a sense of calm, right? Like I was supposed to be there. So I walked back in the house because I'm like, oh, I know what this is. Everyone's freaking the fuck out. Like, there's people leaving, you know? I walk back into the house. I walk to my bedroom. I go under the bed, man. I start pulling out my shit. And I just pull out magazines. I just start loading. And I'm like, I know what this is, so I just need to.
Dude, if I swear to God, if this translates into a fucking dream tonight, I'm gonna be very upset with you. I'm gonna be fucking. I'm gonna wake up at 4 a.m. in cold sweats and be like, God damn it, Oscar.
Yeah. Like, dude, I'm telling you, man, it was so fucking real, man. That I mean, I can literally, I remember it.
Very vivid,
very vivid. Except for like the written details, you know what I mean? Because all that's blurry.
Yeah.
It's almost like, yeah. But you're not going to see when it was or what time it was. No shit like that, you know?
Not going to tell you that. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, man, it was weird. But then again, like I said, maybe it was a fucking movie I watched. It was just, well, here's the crazy part, right? Like we're talking 15 years apart. Mm-hmm. Right? No, not 15. Yeah, maybe like 10, 12 years apart. You know, from the time I had my dream to the time I realized that I was living in the house that I was in. I was just like, oh, fuck. I even told Amy, she's like, okay, I'm going back to bed. But, I mean, fuck enough to fucking people out and shit.
What a way.
Enjoy your dreams.
What are we
Enjoy
at
your
right
dreams, everybody.
3 hours and 11 minutes.
Damn.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It goes by quick.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It does.
That's a way to end. What a way to end. So this is Oscar's fucked up dream, everybody.
Fucked up dream. Hey, guys.
All the regular listeners have heard it before, though.
Yeah. I've talked about it before because we had like some, we talked about ghosts and shit like that and some weird fucked
I
up
think you've
shit.
talked about it with Rock a couple times.
Ooh, y'all
and
should
David.
set up. You should set up in the salon and do a nighttime podcast and see if the ghost comes out.
Man, we kind of talked about not doing that because we don't want to invite Nand again.
We scared the shit out of ourselves doing some ghost hunting ones, and we're like,
Yeah. Especially that one at the fucking hotel, bro. There was no reason. We all got back into the room and everybody was dog tired. I'm like, everybody was just
For no
fine
reason.
like 30 seconds ago.
yeah.
We get back at the room and we're just like
Like
passing
the energy
out.
was just sapped out of us.
Well, you know, the crazy thing about that though is that, you know, most ghosts are demons walking on the earth.
Probably.
Yeah.
Because even in the Catholic faith, there's purgatory, right? So
Yeah, that's true.
Who's left here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Well, shit, on that note, so everybody can sleep.
Happy Halloween.
Miller, I ask all our guests, man, to give us a sign, give us a what it do while we sign out. So if you could just give us a nice little what it do.
What it do?
What it do, baby?
What to do.